Mais ou menos 4 ou 5 meses atrás, a gente começou um desafio de transformação digital de tudo que acontece aqui na Porsche.
Nós estamos trazendo uma tecnologia que antes era usada na rua, em nossos produtos de carro compartilhado, moto compartilhada. Hoje nós estamos entregando aqui uma telemetria em real time para uma das melhores categorias de turismo do mundo, que é a Porsche Cup.
Time once again, folks, to bring on the thunder and the noise of the Porsche Carrera Cup and Porsche Sprint Challenge Brazil in the birthplace of Brazilian motorsport. The Autódromo José Carlos Pace in downtown Sao Paulo. Interlagos has been the epicenter for the most sensational motorsport in South America. Where better to continue our 2024 motorsport journey? I'm Jake Sanson. Great to be with you once again, and we're going to have a fantastic continuation of our brilliant journey in the Porsche Carrera Cup. After the first round of the championship at Velocita, we had so much excitement and some thrilling encounters on the circuit. We're just heading out onto the circuit now for time qualifying, and automatically we've got some brilliant stories to pick up on from last time. We had 4 very adventurous races in the Carrera Cup, which is the championship we have out on the circuit at the moment. A lot of very talented competitors getting themselves up to speed. Marcel Müller taking the victory in the Racers Carrera Cup category, but it was Ryan Mascarello who actually got the overall victory, and also in the sprint category too. Fantastic performance from them. The rookie win taken once again by Israel Salmen ahead of Leonardo Sanchez and Piero Cifali, so plenty of great talent exuded on that particular occasion. In the second race, of course, it was Vernon Neugebauer who took the victory in front of Marcel Müller and Elsa Feldman in the overall category. Then the sprint category taken by Francisco Horta in front of Peter Ferter and Ryan Mascarello. But the victory in the rookies once again went the way of Israel Salmen ahead of Gustavo Janon and Piero Cifali. We'll go into that in more detail as we continue our broadcast. But what a fantastic display we are set for as the continues get out around the circuit. There is Joao Barbosa, who is putting in a fantastic first effort to put himself around the course. The rookies out on the circuit first, as is often the way, and certainly the way in time qualifying. So we've got the likes of Israel Salmen, Joao Barbosa, Gustavo Janon, Bruno Campos, Ramon Alcaraz, Piero Cifali, Gustavo Fara, Leonardo Sanchez, Edu Guides, Marco Pisani, Marcos Regadas, and Eduardo Menossi out on the circuit for their qualifying session. And it's great to see them all starting to really get up to speed in the early advanced stages of this session. Hello, everybody. Great to be with you once again. Jake Sanson here in the commentary box as we give ourselves a great spectacle from this qualifying session. There are, of course, 3-time groups across each battle, and there's going to be a showdown across each category as well. So we'll get some fantastic performances from each of our 6 classes across the Carrera Cup and also the Sprint Challenge. We saw some fantastic racing at Velocita a few weeks ago, and we're going to get to do exactly the same thing here at Interlagos in a season that's going to give us plenty of suspense and a lot of great racing to talk about. We're going to get to see these guys really test themselves and stretch their legs around the circuit, which is the home of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix in Formula 1, and has been the scene of many a championship showdown and decider over the years as well. No less than the likes of Fernando Alonso, Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton have all become world champion in Formula 1 around this venue. And of course, the man himself, Felipe Massa, has been a hero of the Brazilian motorsport world here on several occasions, not just in Formula 1, but also recently in Stock Car Pro Series. The Porsche Carrera Cup is no exception to the excitement and the action that you're going to see around this Interlagos circuit. And drivers already starting to open up the taps. Israel Salmen getting through in a 1:39.9 to really open the ball rolling and put a decent lap time down in the qualifying session here. There is the boss car getting itself around the course and opening up the taps for a really strong competitive lap time. So a very solid start for Guedes as Eddie Guedes crosses the line in a 1:51.1. That's basically just his banker, so he's obviously going to be trying to go a lot quicker than that. But he'll be warming up the tyres and brakes to get us to that point, and that's obviously a gradual procedure. So far, so good then for Israel Salmen, who is definitely coming out of the blocks fighting fit in front of Gustavo Janon, doing a good job there in second position. Marcos Regadas now in third position in front of Eduardo Menossi. So Menossi has put himself into a good position immediately there. Fifth place for Joao Barbosa, who we saw a little earlier on. You're currently out there watching Marco Bijani in the number 12 car, doing a fantastic job in the first round of the championship and really finding fit. It looks as though he's caused a little bit of a roadblock, unfortunately, for the 17 Marcos Regadas, who is currently in third place. He'll be a little bit irritated and frustrated, I think, with that performance, because Israel Salmen has just done a 1:37.6 to really go for a fast time. And that's really impeded Marcos Regadas on his qualifying run. 6 minutes to go, as you can see on the session. There's nowhere in the world quite like this particular circuit. It's a fabulous racetrack, has had so much history in its almost 50 years of world motorsport. In fact, it is just over 50 years, I think, since the Interlagos circuit opened, so there's been so much history around this place. It's hosted Formula 1 in both of its configurations. Many fantastic battles have been played out on this circuit, and it lends itself to a real technical setup mastery from the engineers, because you really got to balance fast speed with technical dexterity. You've really got to throw the car in through these apexes and really nail these curves, try and get a little bit more purchase on the throttle. It's a really tough circuit, a really tough car to get used to in these threads as well. So 5 minutes left of the session. We're currently watching the man who is in the pole position at the moment, the on-fly car of Israel Salmen, who has been the leading rookie over the course of the first 2 race weekends. And certainly looking very strong indeed to continue that in the third round of the 2024 Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil Championship. Certainly looking very strong in the rookie campaign, and this is a really solid run for him so far. Looking good to better his 1:37.61 time. Let's see what we can back with on this particular lap. And we'll see what the improvement. 1:37.16, that's massive from Israel Salmen. He can be very happy indeed with that. And that is definitely going to be challenged already. Gustavo Janon just behind him on the road is in the 1:37.5 to even up the score a little bit there. We'll get to see what the likes of Barbosa, what Menossi, Gustavo Farah and Leonardo Sanchez can back with. But that's a really solid run and a great effort from Israel Salmen. And there's the man behind him in both the road and the timing screen, Gustavo Janon, who's become the closest driver really to threaten his opposition to the throne at the moment in the rookie category. Good start then for Israel Salmen and for Gustavo Janon, right up at the front as we expect them to be. The engineers watching along, hoping for another solid day at the races here. Of course, we have race 1 coming up a little bit later in both the Carrera Cup and the Sprint Challenge. They'll all be wanting to open up their accounts with a very strong performance and a very solid race trim. Israel Salmen, Gustavo Janon, Joao Barbosa and Leonardo Sanchez is the order at the moment from Edu Gudez, and then Bruno Campos from Marcos Regadas. So that hold-up really has impeded Regadas big time. His best is only 1.4 away from Israel Salmen. Gustavo Janon still trying to go for it in the sectors though, in the hope that he can find a little bit more on the pole setup. He certainly set a personal best for Sector 2 on this lap. Looking pretty good. What are we about to see a replay of? This is Pajani. Oh, you can see how twitchy the car can be under braking for Center S. It's a very tricky car to nail the apex of and get right, and it can really surprise you. Very top-heavy car, but it's got a massive amount of grunt. And it's actually quite responsive when you nail a corner. You just got to be so precise in where you pitch in, where you get the car turned up, where you're able to stop the car and then get back on the power in good stead. Gustavo Janon's increased his best. He's just done a 1:37.466. So that actually gets him to within just under 0.3 of a second of Salmen. And that is Janon being caught a little by Bruno Campos. Now Bruno Campos has now moved up into third place, half a second off the pace of Israel Salmen. And then we'll get Joao Barbosa, Leonardo Sanchez, Edu Guedes, and then Marcos Regadas from Gustavo Fara, Eduardo Monossi, Marco Pisani, Raman Alcaraz, and then Piero Cifali. So far, so good, but it's looking really intense for Israel Salmen up front. It doesn't look as though he's going to be toppled anytime soon. This is an important one for Edu Guedes to tidy up and finish strong. He's looking very quick at the moment. Can he get himself up towards the top 5? Now improvement there for Guedes. There's a number 9 Tekbon Boss car. Looking for a little bit more from the car, but it just hasn't quite been able to translate on this particular flying lap. 2-0. Israel Salmen still uncatchable at the moment on his pace of a 1:37.16. Indeed, from his perspective. Then Bruno Campos, Marcos Regadas, Joao Barbosa, Marco Pisani, and Leonardo Sanchez. That's the order for the moment. Then Edu Guedes, Gustavo Fara within 1.5 seconds. And then Eduardo Menossi, Ramon Alcaraz, and Piero Cifali. You've got to remember that in the rookie category, there is going to be a little bit more of a gap between some of the drivers at this level because you have to learn very quickly and very on the dial. A lot of these rookies are stepping into racing cars essentially for the first time. Never mind Porsche Carrera Cup for the first time. And here is Bruno Campos. He's definitely been lighting up the timing screens in the sectors. Looks very comfortable and quite planted at this stage. As he comes onto the main straight once again. What sort of improvement can Bruno Campos make on this one? Well, it's not a personal best, 1:37.9. Meanwhile, fastest of all in Sector 1 is now Marcos Regadas. So Marcos Regadas has gone faster than anybody in Sector 1. Here he is. Oh, he spun it! He spun it! He's lost it! So Marcos Regadas, I thought he was going to go for the pole time there, but unfortunately he has just overcooked it. It was going so well in Sector 1. Now, where has he dropped that? So you can see the car is starting to swap ends at this point. He's just trying to get a little bit more opposite lock, but the car has spat out from under him. That's very unfortunate for the man who was currently, at that point, fastest in the first sector. I think that's on the run up to the Bico de Pato that he's gone off there. And you can see that spin is actually uphill. So very unfortunate for Marcos Regadas. It was looking good up to that point. Oh, here it is. It's actually into Geração. So he works his way through just at the bottom of the hill. Just too much throttle too early. And, well, that's very unfortunate. It was looking so good up to that point for Marcos Regadas. That would have put him potentially second row of the grid, maybe even an edge towards pole position. But unfortunately, Marcos Regadas is going to have to settle for 4th position. There is Menessi. Indeed putting in a good show there. So Eduardo Menossi having a solid run in the one pink machine, the Ocean Network Express. Coming off the turns and then up this climb. Still looking pretty sweet as he works his way through. A real shame for Marcos Regadas. He was purple in Sector 1, personal best in Sector 2. It was touch and go as to whether he could have actually got the pole position there off of Israel Salmen. That's a costly mistake. And Marcos Regadas, although he's only lost 3 positions from what he could have been, 4th position, that'll still be frustrating for him. I think he'll feel like he had a lot more in the car. And was certainly on the way to produce it. This is not a bad run either for Eduardo Menossi, certainly going reasonably quick in the first sector. 41.3, there or thereabouts. This is the kind of lap that you're either going to commit to or bail on. He's just done a 33.84 in the second sector, so I would guess that he's probably going to bail out of this one, as he doesn't seem to be making many gains, and I think the team will tell him at this point, look, you may as well come in. It's not going to be a faster lap. Yeah, that's exactly what he's done. So, celebration for Israel Salman. He now knows that he can't be beaten. Excellent run to the pole position in group. He can be very happy indeed for that one. Israel Salman, very satisfied, and very rightly so. Always really exciting. Now, of course, what happens is the other categories, they then come in and they set similar times to push them, obviously, in the same level as them, and it's interesting to see if we ever get any rookies into that final shootout a little bit later on. So essentially what happens is we get the 3 category of drivers going through, and then we have a shootout at the end, which is an amalgamation of all the drivers with all their best times. And for Israel Salman, it's definitely fastest in rookie, but will that time be good enough to actually take him to the final showdown? It's not happened before yet in rookie. That doesn't mean it won't. And he certainly put a very strong lap time together. So it means we actually end up having 8 sessions out on the circuit for qualifying. It's a 2-hour process and plenty of opportunities for the drivers to go out and stretch their legs and have an exciting run out on the course. Final couple of cars just coming in. So it's Israel Salman who goes fastest in the rookie category. Gustavo Janon in second place. Bruno Campos ahead of Marcos Rodgadas. And then Joao Barbosa, Edu Godes, Marco Pisani, Gustavo Fara, Leonardo Sanchez, Eduardo Menossi, Piero Cifali, and Roman Alcaraz. Nobody has been knocked out yet, but as soon as the other 2 categories come out onto the circuit, that's when it starts to get that point. Joao Barbosa running a very special helmet design this week. Because for many Brazilians this is going to be a very emotive week in motorsport, because in just 4 days' time it will mark 30 years to the day since we lost the great motor racing superstar Ayrton Senna da Silva. You're going to see a lot of tributes to him across the course of this race meeting. It's a very emotive week if you're a Brazilian racing fan, very emotive week if you're a Brazilian full stop. He meant an awful lot to this fantastic nation. And his presence and his legacy lives on, of course, through the Ayrton Senna Foundation, which has helped over 14 million children in Sao Paulo and in Brazil as a nation. So it's a very important legacy to continue on with. And Joao Barbosa, just one of the drivers who's wearing a very special tribute racing helmet this weekend. It's a combination of his design and the traditional racing colours of Ayrton Senna. So a fabulous display. And of course, as you can see to the left of your screen, we've always had that fantastic mural that is painted on the pit lane building here at Interlagos, marking the man himself, who of course won here in the Brazilian Grand Prix as it was then in 1991 and 1993. A fabulous tribute to an incredible competitor who I was very privileged as a young man to watch myself as a youngster, and rather sadly got to see his last race as well. So a very emotive week in motorsport, but great to see that, you know, his passion, his thirst for motorsport and his racing legacy lives on in this championship and in many other racing drivers from Brazil around the world. There was nobody quite like him, and with this being a very special and emotive week, racing at Interlagos only seems fit for the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil and the Porsche Sprint Challenge Brasil. So first blood to Israel Salman. A very solid week so far for him, coming straight out of the blocks and putting his car into the top spot with a 1:37.168. Now, based on practice, I would say he could have really found a little bit more if he wants to get to the shootout. However, never say never. There is still a chance that he'll get there. You don't really know what's going to come in these qualifying sessions. With the rubber laid down, it may actually be a disadvantage rather than an advantage. But look how hard Israel Salman is actually pushing to get this pole position. You are literally flirting with the grass verge on the way through as you push the car to its limits there. So Israel Salman definitely leaving nothing on the table as the next contenders work their way out, the sport competitors. And this is where we're going to see another category of drivers head out onto the circuit. And so far, there's only 4 of them that have ventured out. Carlos Campos, Nelson Marcondes, Roman Zimkiewicz and Yosemite Junior, but now they are joined by the likes of Francisco Horta and Nelson Monteiro. We'll also see Peter Ferter, of course, who managed to pick up the sport victory last time in the second race at Velocita. But of course, we're going to get to see the man who not only won in the sport category last time in race 1 at Velocita, but also managed to win the category outright as well. We hope we should be able to see him out on the circuit, and that of course is Raias Mascarello. So you're just watching Nelson Marcondes get himself up to speed as he heads out onto the course. I don't think all the sport drivers are out on the circuit just yet. There's a few more that are leaving pit lane. There is Peter Ferter, already a race winner in 2024. Did a fabulous job in Velocita to pick up a class victory. Did a really solid move to make that happen, was battling away. This is what I was talking about when I said you're going to see a lot of tributes here this week. Yosimar Junior has gone the extra mile. Look at this beautiful design of Porsche, and that is absolutely stunning. Running the Porsche in the helmet colours of Ayrton Senna da Silva, and it's easily the most stunning and the most striking tribute to the great man that you're going to see this weekend. That's a really emotive colour scheme to watch go around the circuit, and I have to say everybody here will absolutely appreciate, adore and really get behind this tribute. And I have a feeling this is going to end up on all of the modders communities within iRacing, within Assetto Corsa, within R Factor 2. I'm sure it won't be long before there's many versions and interpretations of this livery going around the esports rooms of this fantastic world. And it's, you know, that's such an amazing job that they've done to bring helmets Senna colours to the Porsche itself. Very exciting pit lane. It's going to be an interesting one for everybody getting themselves ready for the next challenges. There's a real sense of excitement and a real buzz for the racing to get forward. There's Nelson Monteiro just starting his time run. And this is where you're going to start to see drivers essentially being knocked down the ranks. It's only the top few cars that actually go through to the shootout, don't forget. I think it's the top 13 that will get through, which is why we have the line there. So obviously everybody just trying to keep themselves in the hunt, to get themselves up into that sharp end of the dais. They all want to be running at the front end and getting a decent lap time out of it. So Israel Salmon's benchmark is a 1:37.168, a very solid move to start things off so far, and that will certainly set a target for the sport drivers to try and beat. We're going to continue to see what these guys are able to continue to produce. It will certainly be very challenging for them as they continue on their run. There's a lot more still to come from these incredible races. Tough old battle that awaits them around this course, and you can see the first couple of laps completed by Roman Zamkovic and Nelson Marcondes, but it's not really a representative lap as yet because you're still at this moment in the rankings in the process of dialing in the tyres and the brakes. You're still trying to keep the eyes on it. No sign yet of Ryan Mascarello, I have to say, the winner at Velocita. I didn't quite see why he was absent from the fray, but I'm sure that will become apparent on the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil website if it isn't already. And there is Roman Zimkovic, working very hard here to get the most out of his incredible beast. Just trying to push the car further forward. You're not going to. It's still going to be a couple of laps, I think, before the really representative times come through. Although Nelson Monteiro has just popped up with a time that's 4.3 seconds away from the pace, rather than about 7 seconds off the pace, which is where we were a short while ago. So it's certainly getting started then, this rapid race to move forward. Out of the turn, up the top of the crest once more. Very important for these guys to take full advantage of the opportunity. It's a really tough circuit, this. And obviously in qualifying, you're really trying to maximise what it is that you can get out of it. The easiest circuit to take, that's for sure. As they come up towards the Senna S once again, and then they will obviously drop through the Curva do Sol. We jump forward actually, and we find Francisco Horta, who is one of the top drivers in his particular category, then through the Descida do Lago, just alongside the lake, and through this fast flowing section that rises up the crest on towards Ferradura. very tough corner. We saw some great battles here in last year's Porsche Carrera Cup and Sprint Challenge on this particular corner. Quite a few drivers prepared to go bold on the far side in order to try and better themselves. Up the Curva de la Rañana and then up towards Pinheiro. One of the very tricky sections of the course. This is where you start to climb and you really start to find a little bit more out of the car. Then up towards that very tight right-hand hairpin. This is the Bico de Pato, the duckbill. Right tight radius, it actually drops in the crest here, and then you go through Magello. This is a very tricky circuit corner to get right. The car really wants to dip in and dive through. Then into Geração, Timo Glock's least favourite corner in motorsport. Then up the climb. This is where it really gets fantastic fun, all the way along the Subida dos Boxes, and then up through Irquimbacandas. That's where they come along the far side of the course. And then along the Arquibacandas. Very good run there to complete the lap. And now we're starting to knock on the door of overall pace. So Nelson Monteiro, Peter Ferter and Roman Zimkiewicz has certainly opened the ball. Nelson Marcondes gets a time that's only just slower than Israel Salmen. Roman Zimkiewicz having gone up into second place, just quicker than Marcondes as well. And that was just the banker lap, so expect some really fast laps to go through on this rotation. Everybody's still trying to find their feet and get a little bit more out of the car. You're going to get quite a lot of it, to be fair, as they continue to push. Now it's getting really tight, as Roman Zimkiewicz's time is only 14 thousandths of a second slower than Israel Salmen's. So if Israel Salmen can keep himself towards the sharp end, then who are we to judge his pace at the moment? Francisco Horta, by the way, has not really set a representative lap time yet. His best is a 1:50.59, which is a long way from pace, a good 13 seconds off. It looks like he might be pulling a bit of a Clay Regazzoni at the moment. Actually, I think I'm referring to Carlos Reutemann rather than Clay Regazzoni. I do apologise. He always used to have this trick of waiting until qualifying before stringing the perfect lap together, and then for no explanation other than he'd been studying hard through the procedure, he managed to come out on the turn. Now Nelson Monteiro, 1:37.0. A really solid run, 3.5 minutes on the clock. Zimkiewicz trying to get closer to that mark as well. He only needs to improve by 0.172 if he wants to take provisional pole position away from Nelson Monteiro. Out of Geração, climbing up again. Through Arquibacandas. And working their way all the way along this long flowing straight, which isn't really straight, we should point out. It's just incredibly rapid as he continues all the way down through the dip and up the crest once again. What kind of a pace time can he get? Will he go up to the top spot for the time being? It's no major improvement for Zimkiewicz. Remains in third position, second in category, having not improved on his best. And 1:41.7 is what he came up with. Here, meanwhile, is the man who is on the top spot, Nelson Monteiro. He's gone 0.157 quicker now than Israel Salmen. So Noah Monteiro has definitely put the sport car into provisional pole position. That will help a lot in terms of confidence, in terms of a great push to continue to make the progress needed. A very solid performance so far from Nelson Monteiro. Then Israel Salmen's time remains that good enough for second position. Is coming into the pits? Yes, it is. So clearly a lap from Nelson Monteiro that he doesn't feel he needs to improve on, or clearly feels he can't improve on. Similar for Nelson Marcondes, just trying to find that little bit of extra squirt from the throttle. Dropping down through Magello. Then up towards Geração once again. And then he will accelerate up the crest and through that first very flowing left flick, which is on the throttle all the way. Through Subida dos Boxes. A very solid performance so far. I can be very happy with the way that this is currently playing out. Right up at the sharp end. He's going to commit to the lap. He's not done yet. So we may end up with an improvement here. Let's see if this is going to be a time that will shake up the order a little bit. Well, Francisco Horta, by the way, who left it very late to get out on set the lap, he's just set second position, 92 thousandths of a second slower than Nelson Monteiro. Remember, Zimkiewicz is still fourth from Nelson Marcondes, then Lino Perez and Peter Ferter, who have all managed to go quicker than Gustavo Janon. Waiting for those last couple of cars to come through. The treble 8 of the very talented Lino Perez has just gone top spot. So Nelson Monteiro thought he'd done enough to get through there. in pole position. I mean, he still looks pretty happy about it, but Lino Perez, this man, has literally just taken the top spot away from him. So I don't know how happy he'll be after that. But certainly for now, Lino Perez taking the top spot away from Nelson Monteiro at the moment, who was the fastest of all in Sector 2. Interestingly, fastest of all in Sector 1 is actually Roman Zimkiewicz, who's still out there, still trying to find a little bit more pace in this car. He might just be able to find a little bit more on his final flying lap, I guess. But Lino Perez, he's going to be out of luck in terms of trying to start another time lap. Francisco Horta's not. Francisco Horta now in third position, just in behind Nelson Monteiro and Lino Perez. Now, will he stay out and get another lap time in, or will he think, you know what, I've not done too badly in third position. I'll consolidate, I'll save it. No, he's going to try and go to the line in the hope that he can, A, finish the lap, and B, get across the line before the checkered flag goes out. Has he done that? Just, my goodness me. Francisco Horta gets to set another flying lap then. Nobody else will get to at this point. Every time anyone else comes up to the line now, it'll be to finish off. But I think there's no need for another flying lap then from the 80 of Zimkiewicz. I think that's going to be enough there. Just trying to reassure the drivers out there of what they've done. Here comes the flying Senna car as Josimar Junior comes through. Is this going to be an improvement? It is indeed. It's certainly, I think, a candidate for the best looking car in the field. It's absolutely gorgeous in these colours, and a very emotive colour display, I think it is too. No wonder it's such a special one. But still a very solid run coming in from a couple of the drivers there. Hoping for a little bit more. So this is a very sudden emergence into the fray here in fourth position, just displacing Israel Salman. Peter Verter has left it very late to get in amongst the front runners. And he certainly found that little bit of edge very quickly. But look at the times. The top 7 cars across the 2 categories now. Less than a quarter of a second in it. As Lino Perez comes in, he's very happy with the way he's done that. He's left it all on the table, left it to the last. Mind you, we're not done. Peter Verter is still trying to find that little bit extra from the car. Can he get out of fourth position? Will he improve? No, he's not done a faster time. So now it's pretty much set in stone for Lino Perez. It was a little shaky there for a moment, as Peter Verter was also on a quick lap. But Lino Perez can be very happy with that. The fastest sport driver in his class, and so far, the fastest overall. That will help a lot. For his confidence alone, he can be very happy with the way that that has all played out. This is Lino Perez on the limit, really pushing his car, trying to find that little bit of extra time. And it's good to see that, you know, the mistakes are not really creeping in anywhere near as much in the sport category as, of course, they were in rookie. It's very easy to get these cars loose when you're flirting with the limit each time. So it's understandable that if you're going to get an accident or two here or there, or a little drop it or a little mistake, it's going to come from the rookies campaign. But it's worth pointing out that the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil, in both the Sprint Challenge and the Carrera Cup itself, have already provided more drama in the first 2 weekends of the season to last year an entire season. So these guys definitely deliver in terms of activity and in terms of action. It's great to see them continuing that sort of trend as we move forward through the season. And what better way to demonstrate that than here on the Autódromo José Carlos Pace. Great to see these shots. Lino Perez really pushing the car to its absolute extent. This is what pushing it to the limit looks like. That really is nothing left to chance, isn't it? Absolute limits of what it is. Because some great performances there from some calculated drivers who knew exactly what they were doing and the timing of how to do it as well. So Lino Perez will be very satisfied with getting through in that particular stead. Really edging the car forward, just trying to find that little bit of extra speed and skill from the treble 8. And that will put his mind at rest, because he knows that going into the final shootout, he'll have a real chance of upsetting the balance there with a car underneath him that's clearly very quick indeed. He's clearly very strong. And he's definitely going to be a contender for this one. That's a little over the limit, as you can see. But Lino Perez, absolutely determined. If you're a racing driver, you really will stretch what's possible, and you'll leave nothing to chance. You'll leave nothing on the table, and you'll just try and find that little bit of extra speed, that little bit of extra torque to get you around the course in the most competitive manner possible. Great work from Lino Perez and from his opponents as well. He's had it very tough out there. But the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil looking very neat and tidy for the drivers out there, and certainly for Lino Perez, he's lined it up exactly as he needed to, exactly as he wanted to give himself the best possible show. And it's wonderful to see everybody put on a fantastic display. Right, time for the overall category, the Carrera Cup itself, and the drivers that will head out onto the course. We're going to see another sensational group of drivers. The Blau Motorsport car getting itself out onto the course once again. There is Salas getting ready. We're going to see some really strong performances now. This is where the competitors are going to try and knock out some of the rookies, knock out some of the sport contenders as well. They want to make sure they're in the final showdown. But they race in their 3 individual classes in qualifying. So all of the rookies go out together, all the sport drivers go out together, and all the cup drivers go out together. And the reason for that is twofold. One, it's because you get the same level of drivers out on the same bit of racetrack together to give you that same sort of equality in terms of the opportunity to set a fast lap. So you don't meet 3 different speeds of driver out on the circuit at the same time. And also, of course, because we've got so many Porsches here, that it makes sense to split them into 3 groups out there so that the risk of traffic is essentially depleted. It's quite important for these drivers to get the fair chance to go for it. You're looking at the number 29, that is Rodrigo Melo, heading out onto the course at the beginning of these 12 minutes of the Cup Racing qualifying session. That consists of Marcel Muller, Rodrigo Melo, Lucas Salas, Alci Feldman, Pedro Aguar, and Christian Hahn. They will head out onto the circuit once again. There's a handful of drivers, of course, that will have absolutely no problem getting their way through and getting themselves up to speed. There's a few more of the pro drivers, if you like, the cup drivers, heading out onto the circuit. Thiago Vivacqua is one of them. He will also, once again, be pretty strong on the uptake here. Just not quite heading out on the circuit at the same time as everybody else, just giving them a little bit of breathing space before he heads out. Of course, Werner Neugebauer is here for this one, so that's going to be an important man to watch for, because he did get the victory in race 2 last time out at Velocita, and he's definitely going to be a contender. Also, so too will Miguel Paludo, who has also joined the sport drivers, the cup drivers. But there is Alci Feldman in the tag, Hoya Porsche. Looks absolutely resplendent in the Interlagos sunshine here. It's a very cool livery, and clearly Tag Heuer very happy to support Alci Feldman here in Brazil and doing such a fantastic job over the course of the 2024 season. It's great to have their patronage, and obviously when you've got a big blue chip sponsor like that on board, it really does show you so much in terms of, you know, the sort of the pride of investment, the hard work, the determination to get to that stage at the moment. You've got to remember that just getting onto this starting grid is the first victory. This isn't like the world of football or tennis or rugby where you can pick up the equipment for a few dollars and just go racing and enjoy yourself and, you know, go play the game and have fun. But racing, that is literally a lifestyle choice. And it's also a lifestyle change. You know, every loose dollar, every loose dime is going to go on the racing in some way, shape or form. And you've got to have the tenacity and the personality to be able to take that on the chin and just soak it up. So Lino Perez will be very happy with that pretty much guaranteed route through to the showdown. Obviously, there are 9 drivers in the Cup category. So not everybody is going to get knocked out here. And so too, obviously, Lino Perez can be very happy knowing that his fastest time in the sport stage guarantees his participation in the last part of qualifying. There is Pedro Aguar, getting himself through the motions here. Just warming up the tyres and brakes. You do this in a very fluid fashion. You have to use those first couple of laps out on the circuit to just build yourself up to something. It takes time to really generate the temperature in the brakes and in the tyres. You've really got to be very, not casual exactly, but certainly very, very calculated in the sort of the order and the rhythm and the flow of how you make these things work. So far, so good then for Pedro Aguar. And the 9 drivers that are trying to get themselves into the final cut showdown. None of these drivers are guaranteed to get there. You've actually got to do the work to push it, although there are some who are more likely than others. Yes, Werner Neugebauer, we are looking at you when we say that. He's certainly going to be a favourite for the victory this weekend. He won last time out in Velocity Race 2. He's already had a very solid performance in this one. In terms of the practice sessions, his times were very quick indeed. So you can bet there's going to be a lot more firepower from him as he tries to make it 2 wins in consecutive race weekends. So Werner Neugebauer looking for strong and solid pace. 8 minutes left in this session. Obviously hoping that the time flies by on wings of song, because he's looking pretty warmed up and really dialed in at the moment. Doesn't really want to push himself further than his own limit. But certainly looking quite calm and quite smooth on those outlaps. And it's actually important to get the outlap of the first sort of lap run quite right. You don't really want to make a mistake on those slow laps either. You say, why? Doesn't the fast lap matter? Well, yes, and of course it does, but the slow laps, the sort of the warm-up laps, actually really help to generate temperature into the brakes, generate temperature into the tires, without flat spotting them, without actually, you know, starting to depreciate the comfort of the tread. There's a lot more that you can do to sort of cruise around for the first couple of outlaps. Hit the throttle when you're on the straight, and the abrasion of the tires is going to be at its very least. So, for the sake of argument, the first sort of banker laps have gone out as Alcy Feldman tops it in this class from Werner Neugebauer, who's just popped into second place, and then Lucas Salas, Rodrigo Melo, Christian Hahn, Marcel Müller, Thiago Vivacqua, then we have Pedro Aguar and Franco Giaffoni. There's still plenty of drivers who want a piece of this. Alcy Feldman, 1:44.411 is his lap. You're going to see him go a lot quicker than that, as the current provisional pole position time stands at 1:36.969 for Lino Perez. I mean, it would show you how serious that Alcy Feldman is about gunning for a good result this weekend if he could already beat that time on his first flying lap by quite a considerable margin. So the gap at 1:36.9 for our man on the top spot, Lino Perez. Where is there going to be a shuffle of the deck here for Alcy Feldman across the line? And it turns out that Feldman's time is good enough over a 1:37.64, which is only fractionally slower than that pace set by the rookie driver Gustavo Janon. So it's not over yet. Still a long way to go. There is the Blau Motorsport Porsche. Still doing a terrific job there in the very capable hands of Christian Hahn. Let's see what he can produce as he comes across the timing line. No improvement. The Pedro Aguar has gone right in the heart of the rookies fraternity, though. So a lot of drivers really overstepping it and pushing hard here to try and find that little bit of extra time. But so far, only Alcy Feldman has really showed himself up to be for a showdown position. Obviously setting the pace, obviously wanting to maximise this opportunity. At the moment, the benchmark is now that of Lino Perez. He's done a 1:36.969. It would not shock me if at least half of the Cup competitor drivers, which is the slightly faster category, if they are able to eclipse the time on their first major flying lap. On the whole, just had Paludo come through and set a pace now as well. So not a bad run at all for Miguel Paludo. There is the 5:44, just again dialing up the speed. Marcel Müller looking for another solid race after his silverware that he collected 3 weeks ago at the Velocity circuit. He'll certainly want to keep pushing up that hill and keep driving a decent result out of the car. He's got to keep focused, got to keep this car well planted. It's never easy to really sense the focus, sense the opportunity, but now we're going to get to see if our man here in the position is able to get a little bit of a quicker time out of it. Up to the top spot comes Marcel Müller. Well, that didn't take long. That was a concise and solid bid there. His coach watches on in the pit lane there. At that time of Marcel Müller, a 1:36.599. Statement of intent to everybody else, as well as, of course, to take the pole position away from Lino Perez. But Pedro Aguar has gone second. Christian Hahn has now gone third. So the Cup drivers are definitely starting to find that little bit of extra pace around the class. You've got to remember that although there's 3 different classes within the category, you've got obviously the Cup drivers, you've got the sprint, the sport competitors, I should say, and you've also got the rookies. Well, fascinating, they're all sort of intermingled with each other. It's very tough to know the difference, really, between the mistakes made at Cup and sport levels, and then amongst the rookies. A good run there, though, for Vivacqua. He's gone second. So a good start to proceedings then for Thiago Vivacqua. Obviously, the big moment is going to come in the showdown. But it's relatively on schedule to see the cars that are where they are up in the sharp end. There is Thiago Vivacqua, and there is Paludo. So let's see what Miguel Paludo in the Brandt car can do to improve progress. Well, what he can do is drift onto the curbs while on full chat through the left-hander. So it's not easy to line himself up. He's obviously trying to get the most out of the car at the best situation. So it's going to be really exciting to see who is going to top the best position. So let's see who is going to take the top spot. Of course, whoever takes pole position overall at this stage is not yet in pole position because we've got the shootout to come after this, of course. This is just to book yourself a place in that shootout. But Marcel Müller making his statement very clear. What about Werner Neugebauer? He also wants to make it very clear that he's going to be on the edge. Look at him as he charges his way out of Jinsao up to the Subida dos Boxes. And this is where things are going to get very intriguing for him. He's going to come through and come across the line, out through Arquibancadas. Let's see if this is going to be a lap time good enough for the top spot for Neugebauer. No, it's not. He's only just slower than Nino Perez, so 6th position for Neugebauer. That's not important. What's important is that he's been able to maximize his position to get in and stay there. Nino Perez can only just sit and watch. As we now look at Lucas Salas. Lucas Salas is doing a fair job so far. A 40.37 for his first split. So that is very much up at the sharp end of what we're looking for. What has he done in the second split? Well, he's done a 32.9, so it's there or thereabouts. Still comparable to what we've seen from him so far over the session. So still we've got Marcel Müller in the front, then Thiago Vivacqua, Pedro Aguar and Christian Hahn, the top 4 in the Carrera Cup. Ended up being the top 4 overall as well. No major shocks there. Nino Perez currently looking at 5th. Across the line, still 1 minute 20 to go in the session. What is going to be the time for Lucas Salas? I mean, no improvement there. A 1:37.2 is what he's looking at if all goes according to plan. But he hasn't quite been able to find the ultimate pace. Now Melo comes through. And what has Rodrigo Melo come up with? Well, it's an improvement, a 1:37.35. But that's not really enough to put him through at the moment. Here comes the challenge from Pedro Aguar. Pedro Aguar currently P3. Can he move his way further forward as he comes through across the line? He's just on a 1:37.16. So it's not good enough really to make the improvement. But certainly he's there or thereabouts. Pedro Aguar's best time of 1:36.8 at the moment. Here's Neugebauer. Now this could be a bit of a shuffle of the deck as he comes forward. Well, again, he's done a 1:39.6 on that occasion. So it's not good enough really to improve on his pace, but it's just getting into that showdown in the first place. That's the real significant factor here for the drivers. And that's what you're shooting for when you come into Carrera Cup. Here is Alcy Feldman, now looking at 11th place overall. So for these drivers at the bottom end, it's really touch and go. You've got to go out there and find the speed and hope that you've put all of the secret ingredients together in time. The time ticks down to 0 for Alcy Feldman. He'll come across the line and take the checkered flag. What is his final lap time good enough for? 11th is the answer. So Alcy Feldman has done the best he possibly can, but has not really been able to crack the top 10. There's a very happy Marcel Müller sat in pit lane. You can be very happy with the fact that whatever happens, he's going through to the shootout. And here comes a very big final gasp challenge here from Rodrigo Melo. And it's not enough to take him out of 17th place. So Rodrigo Melo, is not going to get through. Now, Pedro Aguar has still been pushing. Has he bailed out? Yes, he has. So he's bailed out on the lap then. And Pedro Aguar will come into the pits, having done enough to get through to that final showdown in 3rd position overall. And, of course, in the Cup category as well. But why is there no insistence for Marcel Müller to get out of the car? Well, it's because he's got another session to do straight away. He's got to try and get himself all dialed up and ready again to head out onto the course and bid for the pole position in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil. There's the fabulous karting circuit that runs parallel to the back straight at Sao Paulo. I often wondered if there were going to be some major international FIA karting races on that circuit. There's certainly potential to do it. I think the paddock would obviously need to be increased in size a little bit, but that just goes to show you a lot of these youngsters who start their journey in the world of karting will end up in motorsport on the top scale, like the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil. I've got a lot of passion for it. Now, you just saw the banking there in the background. That's the old circuit, of course, because the configuration and the layout for this place used to be considerably longer in the early days of the circuit opening, and it was reduced a little. Now, again, you can see there just how hard Marcel Müller is pushing. He's got a lot to turn in very early, but because of the shift in the weight transfer, you can see the cars on the edge a lot closer than you can in the sport and rookie categories. Marcel Müller absolutely leaving nothing on the table. The perfect racing car line and the perfect stance appears to be, you know, push to the limit, flirt with that limit, don't quite fall over the top of the cliff, but absolutely throw the car in and hope that it sticks and hope that it bites. And it's experience that really puts you into the best possible mind frame for this. So Marcel Müller, Lineu Perez and Israel Salmen are the pole sitters in each of the individual categories leading up to this phase. So it's obviously been a very exciting run so far for all of the drivers. From here at Interlagos in particular, I can tell you that there's one chap who's watching this all along with his heart beating very quickly indeed. Good runs so far from everybody. Great to see the Porsche hospitality tent again, very much at home here at Interlagos on the main pit lane complex. This isn't just a racing championship if you're in the Porsche Carrera Cup of any nation, never mind in Brazil. It's very much a lifestyle choice as well. You get to eat like a prince, drink like absolute superstars. I do mean that in the sense of the quality of the drink rather than the quantity. And of course, the fantastic lifestyle that comes with being a Porsche Carrera Cup driver. There's just something really, really special about it. It's in the same sort of ambience and the same sort of ethos as the likes of Ferrari or Lamborghini. You know, you've just got that incredible battle and reputation behind it. And of course, Porsche still holds the victory for the most victories at Le Mans, if I'm still right in believing that. So great to see these competitors, you know, really pushing the limits of what is okay. Just finding that little bit of extra speed throughout. Not a bad run from all of them out there, but this man in particular, Marcel Müller, very confident, very capable, steps himself into a very sweet position to have a strong run for all of the drivers out there. But now, of course, we come to the shootout phase, and it's the top 10 that managed to make their way through. I was incorrect before in suggesting that it was the top 12 or the top 13. It is, in fact, the top 10 drivers that managed to make their way through. So Israel Salmen is still the fastest driver in the rookie category, but of course he takes no further part in qualifying because he's not made the top 10 overall cut. Neugebauer has. He's had to work hard to get there. So too is Miguel Peludo in the cup category, bouncing around and really pushing this car to its extremes around the likes of Magalhães and in through Jinsao. Not a bad run either for the Blauer Motorsport team. Their man Christian Hahn able to be in a very solid and very smooth position as well. So very, very excited to see how it's all gone. So let's continue on the journey. The green flag flies at the end of the pit lane. And so we go into the final part of qualifying for the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil. Straight after this session, of course, we have 4 more, so don't go away when the checkered flag flies, because there's going to be the Porsche Sprint Challenge drivers heading out for their 4 groups of qualifying as well. Plenty of chances to see these guys at full chat and at full pelt. So the top 10 across the 3 sessions that we've just seen will venture out onto the circuit in no particular order. They don't have to run in the same order that they left the pits or anything. They only get 10 minutes this time rather than 12. Because that obviously gives them a little bit more impetus to get out there and do something. So the 10 drivers in no particular order other than the order in which they left the pit lane. Marcel Müller, race winner this year in 2024 and last time out in fact at Veloster as well. Definitely a strong contender to go for the top spot. Lineu Perez, who was the fastest driver in the sport category. In fact, they've both left the pits pretty much together. So the 2 leading drivers across their category are able to run in close proximity. Pedro Aguar, who's had a much stronger weekend beginning so far here at Interlagos than he had at Veloster last time. So he can clearly be very happy with his lot in this one. Francisco Horta, who left it very late, you just saw him as he ventured down the back straight to start warming up the tyres and brakes. But Francisco Horta, who left his lap time particularly late to put up a show with, as we look at Christian Hahn going around the course in the Blauer Motorsport Porsche. Also, after Pedro Aguar, we talked about Francisco Horta. Christian Hahn, this man, definitely one to try and shoot for the pole position. He looks like he could be a very avid contender for it. But Werner Neugebauer is clearly going to be in the hunt for, if not pole position, a very strong starting position for race 2. Because we've already seen once this year how the reverse grids have been able to shake things up a little bit and give these drivers a real sense of achievement and accomplishment when they go racing. Then Marcel Müller, Lini Perez, Pedro Aguad, Francisco Horta, Christian Hahn, Werner Neugebauer, and then Franco Giafoni from Miguel Paludo. We've also got Thiago Vivacqua out there to make it 9 drivers out on the circuit. I'm not sure where the 10th one is, to be fair, but that might be tactical rather than logistical. And Marcel Müller just working his way around the circuit, just reminding the little trip point on the live. I'm still here. I'm still pushing my way towards you. I've just got to take my time over this, that's all. So Marcel Müller ahead of Lini Perez, Pedro Aguad, Francisco Horta, Christian Hahn, Werner Neugebauer, Franco Giafoni, Miguel Paludo, and Thiago Vivacqua in the top 9, I should say, because it's not quite the top 10. We don't have the 10th driver out on the circuit just yet. Hopefully we will do, but this is the shootout for pole position, that's for sure. 7 minutes to go around the course. A very solid effort indeed from all of the drivers that have managed to get to this point in the top 10 shootout. But it is going to be tricky to know who's going to have the ultimate pole position, and it wouldn't be the first time that we've had a driver who's not in the pro category come up with the goods to get that done. It's certainly a much stronger lap time incoming now from Franco Giafoni, who has come through and done a reasonable job again, but it's just not quite the same as if you've got the car underneath you to go for a much quicker lap and then it's all washed away by it. Somehow there's a real psychological difficulty amongst racing drivers when that overwhelming sense of achievement abandons you. Lini Perez still hunting down Marcel Müller's every move, potentially trying to get a little bit of a slipstream effect as well, a sort of a Porsche DRS, if you will. Just cutting through the air so much more precisely and just placing the car wherever the driver in front wants to go. And I'm reluctantly involved that driver is obviously still going to be finding that little bit of extra leeway to let Lini Perez come by. Marcel Müller moves aside. Lini Perez goes through. There's no point to hold each other up, especially in the case of Marcel Moral, who thinks he might be going quicker. Lini Perez has just gone top spot, 1:46.5. So Lini Perez now goes for the broke lap time. Here's the opportunity. We watch the 26 of Christian Hahn get past the very talented competitors out there. Christian Hahn actually goes top for the moment as well. So excellent work for Christian Hahn, a 1:44.4. You can be very positive about the way that's transgressed and worked out. So Pedro Aguad through the left-handers. Still putting on a strong show. Pedro Aguad would really like to get in amongst them at the sharp end of the field, but of course he's still working up to his flying lap time. He hasn't actually made any competitive flying lap times yet. But I tell you that there's still plenty to come across this one. So we're going to have to wait and see what continuously happens in these last few minutes of the session. 4 minutes 25. Miguel Paludo now goes top spot ahead of Franco Giafoni. So now we're getting the serious laps in, the 1:43s. So this is where it's really going to start to get interesting. Here comes Lini Perez. His best time is a 1:46.5. I guarantee you, if he's been able to keep it on the limit for these 3 sectors, he's going to smash this time by quite a considerable way. Let's have a look and see what kind of pace he comes up with. Top spot, 1:37.0. Not leaving anything to chance at all. Flirting with a 1:36 as he goes through his flying fast time. Absolutely spectacular. And here come the other drivers in the mix. Lini Perez, the sports driver, has outpaced all of the contenders in the Cup category so far in the shootout. There's still 3 minutes and 40 left of it. And this man is on a charge. Christian Hahn. I think he's only just started a flying lap, to be honest. So he's going to come through. No, he's up fourth. Fourth behind Pedro Aguad. So an excellent run for young Christian Hahn. He can be quite pleased and quite positive about the way things have currently progressed. Lini Perez at the top spot, Pedro Aguad and Werner Neugebauer, who now goes third on a 1:40.185. It's fast, but I don't think it's quite what he was hoping for. Here's Miguel Paludo. 1:43.2 is what he's got to beat. 1:37 flat is what's going to get him the pole position. by only 0.04 of a second. Let's see what is Peludo going to do as he comes through across the line. Well, he's shot up to third place. That's what he's done. Excellent lap from Miguel Peludo, 1:39.5. Still 2.5 seconds away from pace. Again, that shows me a lot about, what terms these particular teams are currently racing under, essentially. When there's 2.5 seconds between first and third. That's a massive chasm to try and depreciate. So Perez, fastest sport driver, looking for the overall pole position as well. Pedro Aguar, Miguel Peludo, Franco Giafoni, and Werner Neugebauer. And with Thiago Vivacqua, Christian Hahn and Marcel Müller. Still, they put on a good show. A round of applause as Marcel Müller goes 1:36.369. That's more like it. 0.3 of a second quicker than Pedro Aguar. 2 minutes to go in the session. Now we're going to get to see these times tumble. Here comes Christian Hahn. Very quick across the first two sectors. Marcel Müller's time is the one to beat. 1:36.3. He does a 1:36.47. 1/10 of a second away. There's still time to do one more, but are there tyres to do one more? That's really the critical question we need to ask. He's not the only one on the flyer. Here's Thiago Vivacqua. But Thiago Vivacqua really wants to find the pace here as well. Pedro Aguar, third position on a 1:36.7. That's beatable. Werner Neugebauer on a 1:36.8. That's even more beatable. So let's see what happens as out off the top of the crest comes Thiago Vivacqua. Hoping that there's going to be enough speed, enough honesty, enough brutality in the car to get him through. 1:20 on the clock. He's only really got this lap left that he's going to start if he wants to make a consistent game. But Vivacqua goes top! 1:36.297 for Thiago Vivacqua. What a shining lap time from him there. That is a pole position lap for Thiago Vivacqua if he's allowed to keep it. But he's not the only one on one. Marcel Müller has found another flying lap underneath him. So Marcel Müller, fastest he's done in Sector 1. Comparable in Sector 2, but this might not be good enough for Marcel Müller to claim back the pole. He's going to commit to it. He's going to stick it to his guns. He can cross the line with about 40 seconds left on the clock. So let's see. Is this enough for the position to change for Marcel Müller? No, it's not. 1:36.3 is still where he's at. A 1:36.6 as he crosses the line. But his best is a 1:36.36. Thiago Vivacqua looking strong, but here again, there's more to play for. Christian Hahn working his way out of Subida dos Boches. And the straight, up to the timing line. 22 seconds remain. What's the time going to be for Christian Hahn? It is no change, is the answer to that one. A 1:36.454 is the better time, but it hasn't made him improve his position. And fabulous to see the likes of Lino Perez and Francisco Horta not only getting through to the final showdown for pole position, the shootout as we run out of time, but also both cars remaining in the top six as Werner Neugebauer moves his way through now into fourth position, 0.3 of a second away, 1:36.6 from him. Here comes Miguel Peludo. The deficit at the moment is almost 0.4 of a second. So there we go. No improvements there, but isn't that amazing? An entire 9 competitive drivers that decided to go out onto the circuit, separated by, give or take, half a second. And Marcel Müller is going to meet a very slow Lino Perez at the worst possible moment. Is that going to be enough of a distraction to thwart the charger? Marcel Müller goes wide as he pushes the car to its absolute stretch limit there. Out through the Subida dos Boches to try and finish this lap off. Arquibancadas. Is this enough? Down the top of the crest, Marcel Müller pushing. Is it enough to get out of the top spot? No, he just loses out. And he's going to blame that third sector. He lost out by about 1/10 of a second, realistically. That lap was down by, he did a 1:36.7. He could have found a little bit more had he not been held up. Christian Hahn will probably say the same thing, but the celebrations begin at Thiago Vivacqua's pit crew. What a great run as Thiago Vivacqua will start race 1 later today from pole position. He can be very happy indeed with that. There is Thiago Vivacqua, pole position. Excellent work in the Carrera Cup. After the performances last time out of Velocita from Ryan Mascarello in the sport category, going pole position overall, and then converting that into the victory later on in the race, it's business restored to normal as the Carrera Cup drivers go top spot. But we were so busy watching the likes of Marcel Müller and Christian Hahn. We hadn't clocked how quick Thiago Vivacqua was going, but that's a really solid effort from Thiago Vivacqua. Great job, great personality, and a fabulous lap time, 1:36.297, grabbing the pole position by, get this, 72 thousandths of a second. You really are looking for millimeters of perfection at this level. Just watch him as he stretches the car. He's on the curbs. He knows that's going to unsettle the car a little bit. On the brakes, turn, come back off the brakes, keep the car gently rolled. Now get on the power. You've got to be so careful where the limit is for that. And that's a textbook run on the curves as well. You don't want to run too close over that curb because it really is counterproductive. And here is the crew to assist Thiago Vivacqua out of the car. And the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil pole position here at Interlagos in April 2024 is going the way of Thiago Vivacqua. Excellent work. Pole position here at Interlagos in the Carrera Cup Brasil. That is a perfect start. So an excellent job. And you're going to see a lot more smiles from Thiago Vivacqua as the weekend unfolds the way things are currently going for him. So we've just gone past 10 o'clock local time here. 10 o'clock in the morning. Perfect day to be Thiago Vivacqua. He's had his breakfast. And what a sensational breakfast it must have been, because he's absolutely thrown caution to the winds. Really stretched the car as well through the course of those sectors. He was the fastest sector one of anybody, 40.003. And so Thiago Vivacqua is on pole position for the Porsche Cup C6 Bank 2024 Carrera Cup round here at Interlagos. Well done to Thiago Vivacqua. Now our attention turns to the Sprint Challenge Brazil. The second half of this qualifying broadcast goes to them. And they've had a very solid time of it recently. Of course, we saw just 3 weeks ago at Velocita the sensational Antonella Bassani. She did a great job, the 17-year-old, to lead home the entire field, leading behind them Miguel Mariotti, Gerson Campos, Marco Tullio, and Caio Castro. Marco Tullio, of course, getting the sport class victory, and Caio Chavez in 7th position, coming up with the goods in race 1. Race 2, what it was all about, Miguel Mariotti, who managed to win the overall class in fantastic fashion, just ahead of Marco Tullio, who was also the winner of the sport category, the winner of the rookie category, going to Lucas Locatelli, which certainly changes things a little bit. Normally, we've got quite used to saying Caio Chavez or Wagner Pontes is at the front. But no, fantastic to see Lucas Locatelli pick up a rookie victory last time. There were a couple of bits of housekeeping from the last round of the championship I wasn't able to bring you up to speed on because we obviously went off air before those adjudications were given. But there were some disqualifications through the course of the race meeting at Velocita. In the Sprint Challenge, we had 3. Wagner Pontes, Leonardo Herman and Seba Marucelli were all disqualified for separate infringements. So it is fascinating to see how that's all played out, and it's shaken up the order a little bit. But in race 2, we also had some disqualifications. Gerson Campos was the disqualification driver in Sprint Challenge Corrida 2. Antonella Bassani was also a retirement in that one, so very hard to see where that sort of deficit comes in. Race 1, of course, of the Carrera Cup, we saw Marcel Müller take the victory from Miguel Peludo and Christian Hahn, but not overall. That went the way of Ryan Mascarello, who sadly is not here this weekend as the drivers head out onto the circuit for the Sprint Challenge Brazil. And of course, we were talking about the Carrera Cup, the second race, as we mentioned before, obviously won by Werner Neugebauer with Marcel Müller in second place. Thiago Vivacqua was all the way down in 6th in that race. So to start this weekend on a pole position should definitely give a lot of confidence, a lot of an air of expectation, yes, perhaps, but also just that real vibrant sense of achievement to bang the car into pole position. Thiago Vivacqua doing a very solid job of making that advantage go his way. So the contenders are gearing up for another one. And we're going to see Alciu Feldmanito out on the circuit. That's the young son of Alciu Feldman. Paolo Totaro, Claudio Chimaio, Eric Santos, Lucas Locatelli, Wagner Pontes, Caio Chavez, who won the rookie race last time out, and Claudio Reina. So they head out onto the circuit, and obviously they've got 12 minutes, although a lot of them have only used 10 and a half of them to send the car out onto the circuit. And again, just to gain a little bit of knowledge, my attitude in this sort of scenario, the way you can easily read this and interpret it, is that, you know, I've paid the same money as everybody else. I'm going to maximize the time out on the circuit. You're out in the qualifying session just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. you don't have a lot of time to play with. You can only really set 4 flying laps in 12 minutes, largely because at some point you'll want to come into the pits, you want to make a slight adjustment, you want to go back out again and try and find that limit. And it's not just one car that's doing that. To be devilishly greedy, that's how they all operate. They all have drivers essentially who are sort of pushing the limits of what they can be expected of. So Alzo Felmanito, you can tell because it's very much in the old McLaren colours, and you're sitting there thinking, McLaren, Porsche, don't see much of a link there. Well, you're of a certain age then, because obviously back in the 80s, the McLarens were powered by the Tag Porsche engines. So obviously that tells you everything you need to know on that one. Out of the final turn and down the home straight. Very solid effort so far from Caio Chavez, just trying to get himself up to a pole-setting pace. Now you will obviously have to appreciate the fact that not all the drivers are going to be maximising the most out of their cars right now. They're still very much in the warm-up tyres and brakes element of the qualifying session. That's still going to take a little bit of time. So where better to find that time than to stretch the lengths of the car a little bit more around various points of the course. Look how low that splitter is actually running on the 38 car. That is Eric Santos. As long as that complies with the regulations, then it's okay, but he's definitely pushing it a little bit here for Eric Santos. And of course, the thing is, if you pick up any damage here, if you pick up a puncture or anything, these cars are so brittle, you know, they break easily when going basically near anybody with a sizable enough paint gun. You know, the car can definitely take its punishments, and it's usually in terms of, you know, bumpers, in terms of spoilers, in terms of bonnet hoods, you know, that kind of dispatch from the car. And that's enough for a driver to think, right, the car is not going to feel the same unless I make it feel the same. I'm going to head out onto the circuit with a very different objective coming into this one. Alcy Feldman-Nito. First banker, 1:45.912. Paolo Totaro in his tracks, 1:46.055. Expect at least 10 more seconds out of this lap. For all of the drivers out there, they're going to want to find a lot more, you know, a lot more opportunity to find that limit. Now Sue Feldman, pole position for the time being, chased down on the road and also on the timing screens by Paolo Totaro. This could actually end up being quite an easy run for the number 3. Still trying to edge his way closer forward. Still they battle on. Alcy Feldman-Nito just again biding his time, waiting for the opportunity. First sector is faster than anybody's managed, 46.9. The third sector is faster than anyone has managed, 35.9. So hopefully there's still going to be more in the tank for these drivers, but Alcy Feldman-Nito currently holds the top spot. Paolo Totaro in second position. Eric Santos now in third place. A penalty being given to Wagner Pontes. And I'm not entirely sure what that's in aid of, that particular penalty, but certainly it's been given to Wagner Pontes regardless. Let's not forget the fact that Wagner Pontes has already been in front of the stewards recently for a separate incident on a separate circuit, so he certainly doesn't want to get the sort of reputation that certain drivers do when they wander into the race director's office or the steward's office and they look up and go, oh, you again. It's almost like the bad boys at school. Right, Alcy Feldman-Nito has the pace at the moment at 1:45.912. Wait for that to improve. It does. 1:42.253. What about the car behind him? Paolo Totaro hoping likewise 1:42.9. So good results there for Alcy Feldman and Paolo Totaro. He can be quite confident in that. There is the 54. That is Caio Chavez. So Caio Chavez looking for a little bit more. 6 minutes on the clock. We're going to try and find that little bit of an extra edge, a little bit of extra pace as he climbs up the hill out of Jinsao along Subida dos Poches. And then, of course, he'll come through Arkin Bekandas. I'll never pronounce that corner correctly. I'll do it eventually as they work their way down the home straight again. This is going to be stretching the limit again. Oh, how close are we going to be on fast times now from Caio Chavez? He'll be desperate to try and take a pole position in this class. Well, he's done a 1:42.7. Plenty of time to find that little bit more of a gap, and it's 0.54 of a second that he needs to find. He was only 0.06 of a second quicker than Lucas Locatelli. Then we've got Claudio Simao, Paolo Totaro, Wagner Pontes, Eric Santos, and Claudia Arena. 1:42.253 is the current pace to set. And Alci Feldmanito could find himself going for a little bit more than that. I actually find, you know, the Porsche Carrera Cup of Brazil and the sort of the trophy alongside it, a very tough spot for all of them. The Sprint Challenge is not the easiest of races to win, but the level of the drivers in Sprint Challenge, it's very much kind of almost celebrated amateurs, I guess, is the way to kind of look at that. So hopefully in future years we'll have a little bit more information on that development. Lucas Locatelli, third position. Alci Feldmanito, first place from Carlos Chavez, Lucas Locatelli, Paulo Totaro, Claudio Shimao, Wagner Pontes, Eric Santos, and Claudio Rena. 5 seconds is the deficit at the moment. 4 minutes remaining in the session. Pushing, hoping for a little bit more time as Eric Santos runs a very solid race at this moment. Looking very comfortable, looking very planted. But is this the kind of lap that's going to put you up to the top spot? Remember, it's the top 10 overall that go through to the shootout in Sprint Challenge Brazil as well as Carrera Cup. Are we going to see a change of direction up at the top end? Well, no, not really. Not much has actually changed on that front. But a couple of drivers trying to continue making progress. Up to the top spot comes Carlos Chavez. Well, Lucas Locatelli, the timing screen in front of me is updated. Lucas Locatelli actually going second fastest. Carlos Chavez going fastest. 1:41.118. So now it's the business end of the rookies class. This is where they've really got to find a little bit extra pace now. Leaning on the curb as they come through. Just trying to find that little bit of extra speed to continue to push this car forward. You can get loose at the best of times, but you can stay confident in it. Oh, big run wide from Alci Feldmanito. Now, is that lap time going to be deleted? The answer is potentially if he improves on his best, because that could be deemed as running off the circuit and gaining an advantage. It's not guaranteed yet whether Alci Feldmanito will even be in a competitive position, but also show you that, you know, I am working hard. It's just me and the car are not quite gelling together. 3 minutes to go. Across the line, are we going to see any major shake-ups? We do indeed, because we're now seeing Alci Feldmanito go into second position in the famous Marlboro colours. 177, Lucas Locatelli working hard there. Third position. Breaking down into Junsao. Back up the straight again in the Harker car. And this could be a bit of a shake-up for the decks as well, because consistently the car is going faster and faster and faster for Lucas Locatelli. Why not just try it? Going on the same route and see if you can make a little bit more headway here. Currently in third position, Lucas Locatelli. Let's see what sort of pace. Up to the top, 1:41.003 for Lucas Locatelli. Excellent lap time, 2 minutes to go. Once more, we remind everybody that only the top 10 drivers across the 3 shootouts are the ones that will go through to fight for pole position in another session. An excellent start. A really, really solid effort here so far. Up to second comes Carlos Chavez, missing out on a 1:41.022 by 19 thousandths of a second. This man, Alci Feldmanito, has not yet given up on design to the top spot. In fact, he's gone fastest of all in Sector 2. Alci Feldmanito. Time to position the car well. Oh, and off the road has gone the 9. Well, that could be a stop to proceedings. Claudio Rena. That's at center S. That's at the apex of the left-hander on the outside. Let's see what happened. So Claudio Rena just pushing. Whoa, the car gets loose. Well, he's spun. Has he hit anything? No. Very well controlled for Claudio Rena. He can get the car started again. We do not have to stop the session. Well done, Claudio. Smart thinking. Did not lock up the tyres too hard. Was able to pitch the car back. He gets back onto the road. He won't have the chance to start another flying lap because we'll run out of time before he gets there. But he's done the smart thing. Commendable for Claudio Rena. Thinking of the bigger picture rather than being selfish there. Lucas Locatelli. Provisional pole time in the rookies. Considering this may be the only time we see them in this session, we have to take full pride in that. Lucas Locatelli, Carlos Chavez, Alci Feldmanito, Claudio Shimao, Wagner Pontes. Here comes Eric Santos across the line. And also behind, there's going to be a bit of a change of route. For a couple of the drivers hoping for some big improvements on things. Carlos Chavez, still only 22 thousandths of a second off. So, still that little bit of time to find. Here's Alci Feldmanito, who could also use a bit of time to find. As Claudio Shimao has gone third quickest. So Claudio Shimao on a 1:41.270. That works out very well in his favour. But for Alci Feldman, He could really do with a little bit more here. 3, 2, 1. Game over, folks. That's qualifying times. Did nothing. So now anybody currently on a flying lap that count is going to count. Anybody who has obviously gone off the road and doesn't appreciate Alsi Feldman. You do not want to be making mistakes like that. That's a very critical point on the course. He's going to be trying to edge his car further forward. It's going to be a bit like the karting days where sort of psychologically he'll almost duck behind the steering wheel in the hope that he can get a little bit of better draft. Alsi Feldman Nito on the grass. Can he improve? 141.7? No, 143.7. No, he can't. It's 141.6 in the end for him. So Alsi Feldman Nito guaranteed 4th place at the moment. But Wagner Pontes, Eric Santos, Paulo Titado, and Claudio Reina are all on fast times. That's why I said it. So there is Eric Santos. And wasn't it amazing that Eric Santos essentially won the Motor Racing Victoria Cross for that one? Pretty much congratulated very avidly by the teams. Here comes the chance for Eric Santos. It is the last chance, really, to book yourself a place in the finals, because with so many drivers in this particular category, it's tough to know. As Eric Santos climbs to 5th position as he crossed the line. It's not over yet. Are we going to get a switch for the top spot? Not from Carlos Chavez. He remains just a little way behind. So it's obviously going to be a very solid situation for all of the contenders out there at the moment. The checkered flag still coming down. And that is a very tough run to the line for Pontes. He gets right up close to the pit wall. So, very solid situation for all the contenders out there. But it's still going strong at the moment for all of the contenders in the mix. But a very, very tough run and a very solid, straight performance battle now for all of the contenders out there. And still a very active performance and a great display. So an excellent run so far. And that's a very solid job, I have to say, from Lucas Locatelli to get the top spot there in qualifying by just 19 thousandths of a second in front of Carlos Chavez. The team congratulating him. I think they're well aware of the fact that the top 10 is probably not likely. But a fabulous performance. Lucas Locatelli doing a great job there, and definitely accelerating in his best possible frame of mind there. Doing a grand job as the drivers come in. Now a number 9 is going to get a penalty. That is Claudio Reina. Now, I don't think that's to do with the off. I think that's another issue. So basically he's had his best lap time taken off him, I think. And that's the penalty that he gets. So that drops him to 8th position in that particular one. But it's going to be a really interesting situation for all of the rookies in this one. There's plenty of talent up at that sharp end of the field. For my money, there's 4 drivers at the front end of this rookie field that will end up fighting for the win realistically in terms of raw pace today. That's Lucas Locatelli, Carlos Chavez, Claudio Shimao, and Alsi Feldman Nito. Eric Santos, I think, might have had a bit more in the car, actually. It's unfortunate that he wasn't really able to maximise it. He had a couple of moments where there could have been some pace over the course of the entirety of the lap, but it just didn't quite all string together. So as a result of that, he's basically had to go on the back foot for that section. So an exceptional run for them, and a really good one so far. So a really exciting path as the drivers continue going into the next session. So we'll see an excellent run. And now, of course, we get to move our way forward then into the sport class category. Very competitive. But there's a very happy Lucas Locatelli. When you get pole position in your class by 19 thousandths of a second, knowing how competitive this category is, I think you've got a right to be very happy about that. So it's really exciting to see how it goes out. Look at the backdrop. One of the most beautiful cities in the entire world, Sao Paulo in Brazil. Such an incredible location. And the motorsport fraternity here in Sao Paulo, so many racing drivers from this part of the world. have no idea how blessed they are to be in such tranquility, such a paradise of perfection. It is a wonderful location and a great place to race. So the green flag flies at the end of the pit lane. Time to send out the sport category drivers then in this Carrera Cup, well, this sprint challenge, I should say. And so the drivers head out one by one. Gianluca Bertuccelli, Luis Souza, Leonardo Herman, and then, of course, Matthias Roque heading out onto the circuit as well. There is Giuliano Bertuccelli, who is currently the driver leading them all out onto the circuit, the sport category. Not many of them in sport, of course, but hey, they've still got to try and compete for the top spot as well. Chegamos Brasil heads out onto the circuit as well in the 139 car. We'll see him very shortly, I'm sure. And there is Giuliano Bertuccelli. They get 12 minutes, just the same as everybody else in the sport category. There's actually 8 cars in total, I do believe, in the sport category this weekend. There's Seba Maruchelli heading out onto the circuit, and Marco Tullio, the race winner last time out, of course. A really solid effort, and also the other driver in the mix there was Kim Sang-ho. This fabulous race circuit right in the middle of downtown Sao Paulo. There's not many other Grand Prix grade circuits that can boast that they are so epicentral to the town itself. A lot of drivers grew up here. Some even, you know, live a stone's throw away from the circuit itself. I know how certain members of my family would feel if I lived right next door to a racetrack, but these guys, it's quite normal, and it's very much part of the DNA of a Brazilian racing driver. You live in Sao Paulo, you want to get as close to the circuit here at Interlagos as humanly possible. So there is Leonardo Herman, one of the top spots and the brightest sparks, trying to gun for pole position in this one. And just trying to get the car set up is for the lap is obviously going to take a couple of laps. There is Seba Maruchelli in the 100% car, trying to maximise and drive a little bit more than 100% if he can. He's going to have to if he wants to remain in the top 10 in this one. He's going to have a very tough run of it. The sport drivers are now out on the circuit, having had the rookies. And of course, straight after that session, we will have the sprint challenge main cup drivers. And then whoever is left in the top 10 at the end of that third session, they are the ones who'll go through to the 10-minute shootout, and whoever gets the fastest lap time in that will start ultimate pole position for our first race later on today. So, on the pace, the 100% car, Seba Maruchelli. Time to go hell for leather. These first couple of laps still just about setting up the pace and warming up tyres and brakes. Just trying to get the most out of the car initially. Now, I'm no racing driver, I'm no expert, of course, and so when you're a commentator rather than a racing driver, the only thing you can do is head out onto these circuits virtually. So between this weekend and the last time out at Velocita, I've actually done a fair amount of old laps on a Porsche 911, similar to these cars, in the sim, in my studio at home, and on this very circuit. And I can tell you, this is not the easiest circuit for these guys to get used to in a Porsche Carrera Cup car. You've really got to tame this circuit very cleverly, and if you're not careful, this circuit will spit you out. We've seen that a couple of times across this qualifying session, and certainly that in the Carrera Cup as well. This is a circuit that commands respect and commands discipline if you want to get the most out of it. So it's time to see what Giuliano Bertuccelli can do to set the pace and get the ball rolling. He crosses the line for the first time, having exited the pits about 2 minutes or so ago. A while, 1:44.1. So that's the initial pace then for Giuliano Bertuccelli. There's a lot more in the cars than that. That's 3 seconds off the pace of the rookie Luca Stoccatelli. I think you'll find that one or two of these drivers, particularly in the sport category, will be absolutely itching to go quicker than that. None the least of whom is this man, Matthias Roque. Going to work his way down the main straight in the Infertilidade car. So very nicely worked there as he comes across the line. Leonardo Herman has just knocked Claudio Reina out of the competition. No major surprises there, with Reina's best time being deleted. Matthias Roque has gone very slow on this lap to warm things up. Chegamos Brasil has done a 1:44.4. That kind of gets him into the mix. And how close to the pit wall do you want to get on your run down to the main straight? Goodness me, Marco Tullio really stretching it. He is wanting to absolutely ride the rails there. That's the equivalent. I guess that's really the equivalent of the skateboard riding the hoop on the way down the hill there. Very tough stuff indeed. So here comes Leonardo Herrmann, the cop at number 23 Porsche, still working very hard indeed over the top end, in through Pico de Pato. He'll get back on the power, drop the car down through Magello. Halfway through this session, and already Seba Malukeli has done a 1:41.7 just to assert that even when the car's not up to full speed, it's going to be very much quick. And in relation to the rookie drivers, he's already going to find a lot of time there. So now let's see just how much pace has been able to be gathered here from Leonardo Herrmann as Giuliano Bertuccelli goes fastest of the moment of the sport drivers, 1:41.693, still 0.6 of a second away from the raw pace of Lucas Locatelli. But here comes the lap from Herrmann, no surprises, 1:40.8, that's the benchmark then. So that is what everybody's trying to hunt down, that time from Leonardo Herrmann. Going to be a tough one to bid for, that's for sure. Here's Seba Malukeli in the 100% car, out through again and along the main straight. Arki Bacanades along to the main straight and across the line. Is this going to be enough to the top spot? It is. Seba Malukeli smashes the time set by Leonardo Herrmann by 0.6 of a second. 1:40.284 there. Very nearly 0.6 of a second in all. Finds it by just over half a second. And there is the 1:39. Trying to find his own bit of pace out there on the course. So that is Chegamos Brasil, has now gone third quickest. Very nice to see the beautiful blue, yellow and silver car of Chegamos Brasil. I mean, the only way that car could look more Brazilian is if it had a massive green stripe down the middle of it. But certainly, Chegamos Brasil finding a lot of great pace in this one. Also able to go quicker than Lucas Locatelli, who did a 1:41.003, don't forget. So if you're in the 140s, you're automatically going to be quicker than the rookie drivers. Marco Tullio is not far away from that on his first banker. He's done a 1:41.15. Matthias Roque with a 1:41.27. Still a lot of time to find, I think. 4 minutes and 40, still on the timing screen. As Chegamos Brasil continues to find that pace, continues to just stretch his legs. Down to the braking zone. Turns in for the left at Geração. The car just looked a little bit edgy there, but he managed to correct it before the car swapped ends. And Seba Malukeli goes faster still, a 1:40.284. 0.004 of a second quicker now than Leonardo Herrmann as Luis Souza comes up into third position. Here comes the completion of the lap from Chegamos Brasil. Is this enough to go to the top spot ahead of Seba Malukeli? Well, Matthias Roque has just gone third, and Chegamos Brasil a 1:40.603. So it's quicker than Souza, but it's still only good enough at the moment for fourth position. But look at that, the top three cars separated by 0.12 of a second. Seba Malukeli, Leonardo Herrmann, Matthias Roque, the three drivers are covered by less time than it takes you or me to blink. Absolutely incredible. So Matthias Roque in the TPM, number 32, is only off the pole time in this category so far by 0.12 of a second. I can't even measure that time for you. Nothing in it at all. So if Matthias Roque can improve by 0.13 of a second, which is exactly what he's trying to do, then he will get pole position provisionally. Leonardo Herrmann trying to do the same thing. Seba Malukeli trying to do the same thing. Marco Tullio, by the way, has moved up to 6th position ahead of Luis Souza. Behind Luis Souza, I should say. He's done a 1:40.781 to be in 6th place. Chegamos Brasil trying to find that little bit of extra pace as well. He's got to find a little bit more time. He's got to find 0.3 of a second. But I think that little moment out of Magello and into Geração, that could have cost him that sort of time. Let's have a look at a replay. This is Souza. He's got a puncture. Well, that'll be why Luis Souza's not quite able to find the pace. So Luis Souza on his qualifying lap with a puncture. So that is game over for the pole position for Luis Souza unless he's able to get out there on a new tyre in time, but I don't think he's going to have the time to do that. So there goes Chegamos Brasil, 1:40.048. He does find the time. He does find an additional 0.3 of a second, and more than that, in fact, to go 0.2 of a second clear of Seba Malukeli, Leonardo Herrmann and Matthias Roque. They're all still covered by just a few thousandths of a second. And that is a very disappointed Luis Souza. Just making it back to the pits is going to be tough enough. So I'm not sure how he's picked up that puncture, but he's got to be careful on the way into the pits because he doesn't want to cause an obstruction for the other drivers. He also doesn't want to damage his own car coming back into the pits. So the team will be on the radio to the drivers. Just keep right. Keep right when you fly past. And don't take too tight a radius coming back into the pit lane because Luis Souza is on his way back into the pits. And he's crawling. So they've got to be so careful now. But Luis Souza, I think he was desperately trying to get back to the pits in the hope that he could make it through. The white flag is out there, as you can see. That's to warn the drivers of a slow-moving vehicle on the road. Here comes another attempt from Giuliano Bertuccelli. He comes through. Is he going to gain time? He does. He moves up a place. So he gets into 7th place, just in behind Sang-Ho Kim, who's managed to get a 140.624 out of it. Bertuccelli on a 140.659 now, faster than Luis Souza. Off the turn, back on the pace. Here again is Matthias Roque. Now, can he find just a handful of thousandths of a second here? He only needs to find 13 thousandths to go second quickest. But if he finds even more than that, he may even get to the top spot once again. Matthias Roque. Where is he going to go? It's not good enough. He doesn't improve. Sebe Malukelli has pitted. What about this man, Sang-Ho Kim? What about Leonardo Herrmann as well? So Herrmann could find his way forward. So too could Sang-Ho Kim. Luis Souza's coming to the pits, so he's not going to cause any more problems for the drivers on flying laps. Could we see one final ring of roll of the dice? Can we see one final big change? Here comes Sang-Ho Kim. Is he going to go quicker than Marco Tullio? We shall find out. The answer is yes. Look at that, second place. Last bid from him, and he goes 140.13. Excellent last lap then from Sang-Ho Kim. Leaves the best for last. And how about this? The top 5, Chelio Brasil, Sang-Ho Kim, Sebe Malucelli, Leonardo Herrmann and Matthias Roque, now covered by less than a quarter of a second. One final ditched effort then for Giuliano Bertuccelli. Malucelli has pitted, so Sebe Malucelli is not going to improve on third. And Giuliano Bertuccelli is on a flying lap. Time has ticked down to 0, so it's that charge for the line through Arquibancadas. Is this it? Checkered flag now. Is this going to be an improvement for Giuliano Bertuccelli as he comes across the line? No. Didn't find a decent lap time out of it in the end. Chelio Brasil then has returned to the pits and on a 140.048 clinches the fastest time from the sport category. They can be very happy indeed with that. Chelio Brasil, what a run. And a very fast time at the end of the lap there. The checkered flag stationary on the circuit just to greet the last couple of drivers if they choose to come across the line on this point. The marshal there on the gantry just waiting to see if any driver does complete their fast lap that they're on. A lot of them, I think, have chosen to bail on this particular flying lap and not to take the fastest time across the line anyway. So Chelio Brasil, fastest in the sport category, and I can tell you that all the sport category drivers outpaced the rookies in this particular category in the Sprint Challenge Brazil. That's not really a big surprise. That's not really a big challenge. But Chelio Brasil goes fastest, 1 minute 40.048. So expect the Challenge Cup drivers to be pushing for 139s then. So Chelio Brasil, Sang-Ho Kim, Sebe Malucelli, Leonardo Herrmann, Matthias Roque, Marco Tullio, and Giuliano Bertuccelli. That's the order amongst the 7 drivers then who were out there on the course. Luis Souza's best time, I've just been informed, has been deleted. So he actually drops now behind Alcio Feldman Nito's best time. So poor Luis Souza, as if things weren't going badly enough, he's now just dropped out of the ranks. Great run there from Sang-Ho Kim right at the end to get second position in class. And rather wipe the smiles off the faces of Sebe Malucelli, Leonardo Herrmann and Matthias Roque. But it shows you how competitive it is. Look at that graphic to the left of your screen. 0.248 of a second covers the top 5 cars. That's nothing. That's now to now, essentially, if I click the fingers. Very, very quick indeed between 5 cars covering such a short distance, such a short space of time. Absolutely extraordinary to have that level of competition. So excellent work from Chelio Brasil. Excellent performance from him, and he can be very happy with the way that that has gone. He can be so smooth and so solid up to this moment. He's worked himself into a very strong position here. He can be very happy with the way things have gone. Excellent display, a great bit of work from him, and certainly in the sort of the rhythm and the flow that he would have liked to have provided for himself there. That's worked out to the best of his advantage. The car really starting to bite those apexes. Bodes well for him. So it looks very strong indeed. And so we're going to get to see some real masterful performances from Chegamos Brasil this weekend, I'm sure. He looks up for the fight. He looks very quick. But then so too does Sebe Malucelli. I think he may have pitted a little bit early. And what about the man in second position? I think it's fair to say that we're going to see quite a lot of exciting stuff from Sang-Ho Kim in this race as well. He should be right up at the sharp end. Worth a cheeky little bet as well. But in the Sprint Challenge of the Porsche Cup C6 Bank 2024, it's a very solid effort in qualifying from the sport competitors. Now for the Challenge Cup drivers, they're going to be pushing for the 139s, and we'll get to see some real talent work their way out onto the course in this one. Some superstar names, including, of course, the most exciting, the most surprising, and the most delectable female talent in Porsche racing in the entirety of the Americas, Antonella Bassani. The 17-year-old, part of the Porsche Young Driver Academy, of course, but it's only a matter of time before she continues this fantastic trajectory. Running in the Brazilian National Championships. She's already a title winner last year in the Sprint Challenge. One more year of that before she steps up, I'm sure. And she's going to be one to watch in these next two sessions. If all goes according to plan, she should be able to sail her way through into the top 10 shootout, and then from there potentially challenge for pole position. It's not going to be easy. She didn't manage it in Velocita, but she did handle the chaos of that first lap incident to work her way through to the lead of the race, which she never lost despite 3 safety car periods during the race. She was able to hold on to that pressure, and a fantastic victory was assured at Velocita 3 weeks ago. So here come the drivers in the Challenge Cup out onto the circuit. Caio Castro, car number 22, Gerson Campos, Antonella Bassani, the 72 car, making her way out onto the course once again. Definitely a favourite for this weekend, as always. Miguel Mariotti, the man who was able to take the other victory at Velocita, so watch out for Miguel Mariotti. Definitely going to be in the hunt for the wins all the way through this weekend as well. But certainly for this lady, Antonella Bassani, in the gold and black Mobil 1 colours. They've spruced up the livery for this weekend. It looks very impressive indeed, this new paint scheme that they've put on the car. You do get this occasionally from time to time when the teams just want to do something a little bit special for the fans and for the driver as well, to give them something really exciting to play with for the weekend. They've just spiced up the livery. Look at this, the black and gold. Sam Sparrow would be very excited to look at that particular car. And Antonella Bassani, the 17-year-old, definitely one of the most talked about racing drivers in Latin America at the moment. And certainly the kind of driver that's going to be putting on a show here. Sadak Leiter comes out onto the circuit as well as the 5th driver in the class. And here out onto the circuit comes the 6th. Very solid effort so far as Gabriel Moore works out onto the circuit. Christian Moore, I should say, sorry. I know so many drivers of different persuasions in different categories. It's Christian Moore, I do apologise, in the number 3 car. There is Gerson Campos, just trying to learn the intricacies of the circuit out here on the qualifying laps. And again, just dialing in the speed, dialing in the pace, trying to warm up the tyres and brakes, trying to find that little bit of extra zest and that little surge of confidence in yourself, in the car, in the circuit. Takes 2 or 3 laps to really get up to speed in these things. In front of him on the road is Caio Castro, definitely a driver worth keeping an eye on. He's got the Gulf colours on his car for this weekend. It's not a full Gulf livery, but he certainly carries that emblem on the car. The Grand 21 car of Miguel Mariotti, race winner 3 weeks ago at Velocita. Certainly did a fantastic job of being the one who was the leader of the race when the musical chairs stopped rotating in race 2, in what was a crazy weekend, ultimately in Sprint Challenge in particular. A lot of incidents, but then in Porsche Carrera Cup and in Porsche Sprint Challenge, these guys go for it. There's no hesitating. There's no waiting around. You only get one shot to go for the victory usually per race, so you take that opportunity if it's invited to you. And these guys, obviously with the Latin American passion that comes with all of those battles, it's very clearly understood amongst these drivers that if there's a gap, you go for it. You talk about the consequences afterwards. Oh, what an excellent situation for the contenders here. Caio Castro, Gerson Campos, Antonello Bassani, Miguel Mariotti, Sadek Leiter, and Christian Moore looking for the pole position time provisionally. But just ultimately, they want to get through to the shootout. So the good news from the point of view of the sport drivers, of course, with there being 6 Challenge Cup drivers, is it's guaranteed, absolutely guaranteed, that we're going to see Celio Brasil, Sang-Ho Kim, Seba Marucelli, and Leonardo Herrmann in the final shootout. So that just shows you how painful it's potentially going to be for Matthias Roque. He has to sit there for the entirety of the next 8 minutes and sweat to essentially see if all 6 drivers can get through. And that's not a guarantee, because the sport drivers are ultimately very serious and very competitive, and they are very comparable on speed. So it's not a given that these 6 drivers in Challenge Cup are all going to set quick enough times to get into that top 10. And with there being only 6 of them, as Sadek Leiter gets speed into the car the hard way, really pushes the boat out. It's not guaranteed at all that these 6 drivers will get through to the shootout. You've still got to go out there and set the pace. And yes, they're in 3 different classes of driver, but drivers are drivers. They've still got to be the executive behind the steering wheel. They've still got to do all the hard work. Up and over the top of the crest. And just a decent little banker set by Sadek Leiter. 1.6 seconds away from the ultimate pace set by Celio Brasil. And there is the 82. Gerson Campos has already got himself firmly into the top 10. That'll do for the moment, but there's more time to come, for sure. But the question is, can Matthias Roque, who's only 0.248 off the pace of Celio Brasil, will he miss out on the qualifying in the top 10 by just a mere 9 thousandths of a second? That would be so heartbreaking for Matthias Roque. But that is the situation he faces as Gerson Campos comes out of Junsao. Works his way forward out through Subida dos Boches, and then working the way through to Arkin Bancadas. So Arkin Bancadas is where he sets up the post for the ultimate lap, and he's come through 1:39.7. Well, there you go. That's the gauntlet going down for everybody else. Here comes Antonello Bassani. Will Bassani go top spot faster than Gerson Campos, fresh out of the blocks? No, a 1:40.362 to set the ball rolling for Antonello Bassani. That's just her first lap. There's more coming. Very aggressive through the first apex of Ceres, launching the car on the curbs of the next one. Miguel Mariotti straight in at second, 1:39.978. Plenty of time still to find here. But obviously, that first lap from Antonello Bassani giving a little bit of confidence for Matthias Roque. Of course, if any of the Challenge Cup drivers that are not Campos and Mariotti drop it at this phase and damage the car enough that it's going to cause a problem, then Matthias Roque is really looking nervous. Up to second comes Sadek Leiter. So Sadek Leiter, 1:39.901. Just over a tenth and a half off the pace set by Gerson Campos. So again, there's still more pace coming from these Challenge Cup drivers. And if all 6 of them get ahead of Celio Brasil, that knocks out Matthias Roque by 8 thousandths of a second. So cruel, this sport. But then, that's motor racing. Here's Christian Moore, Fujin Sao. Back on the pace. Try not to drop the car too much on the grass on the exit curb. Roll on the power. Up through the gears. Through Subida dos Boces. And then on the way to Arki Bancadas. Heading back on the pace again. Is this going to be enough to get into the top 4? Certainly looks like a pretty quick lap. Well, Christian Moore actually goes 7th quickest. So Matthias Roque is really on the bubble now. 9th position. It's looking pretty tentative now for Matthias Roque. Here comes the pace setter further back. This is Caio Castro. He is 22nd at the moment, but that's because he's the last man to really go for the moon and go for the shooting star opportunity. Here comes the chance. Will Caio Castro go up to the top spot or close enough to the top spot? He goes 6th. That pushes Matthias Roque to 10th position. So now it's all going to be on Antonello Bassani. Miguel Mariotti goes top for the moment, 1:39.554. So the guys are looking fairly tentative and fairly nervous. Matthias Roque does not want an improvement from Antonella Bassani. Bassani's done a 140.362. Her last lap was a 140.4. She needs to find more pace. She's pushing it and really stretching the car here on the curbs. So in fact, this time, Antonella Bassani's finding it quite tough. Look at that, early turning, and had to correct it before she worked her way through Ferradura. So very tricky from Antonella Bassani, just trying to find her feet in this car essentially at the moment. Still quick, but not really quick enough at the moment. So Antonella Bassani needs to find a minimal amount of time. She only needs to find 67 thousandths of a second to knock out Matthias Roque from this shootout, who will miss out by 8 thousandths of a second. Antonella Bassani sliding around all over the place at the moment. The car's certainly quick. All she needs to do is go 67 thousandths of a second quicker than she has done. If she can do that, then she goes through. And then they can reset the car up ready for the next run. So this is all going to come down to Antonella Bassani. What can she do across the line? Is she going to get into at least 10th position faster than Matthias Roque? Is the job done? No, it's not. So another sluggish lap there for Antonella Bassani, 140.57. Well, this is a turn up for the books. Matthias Roque lives to fight for another day for the moment. As Mariotti, Campos, Leita, Moore and Castro have all done fast enough laps to be safe. They'll go through to the shootout to join Cherio Brasil, Sang Ho Kim, Seba Malucelli and Leonardo Herman. But Matthias Roque, who is 5th in the sport class category, 8 thousandths of a second slower than Leonardo Herman. It doesn't come much closer than that. Is teetering on the edge of being knocked out of qualifying. Antonella Bassani just needs to improve her previous best lap time by 67 thousandths of a second to qualify for the shootout. But it would be dramatic if Antonella Bassani, who is fighting for the championship in back-to-back years, would not be able to get through. She just needs to calm it down, be smooth, be rapid, but also be very, very calculated through every corner. And this is looking a little bit better for Antonella Bassani. It's not quite as ragged. Just pace it. Just be careful where you put the car. Got to respect it. This is better from Bassani. Looks much more controlled. Looks much more serene. There you go. This is the Antonella Bassani we know. Back on the power. It's clean. It's tidy. It's resourceful. All she needs to do is get into 10th place. And then she can reset again. Ready for the challenge of it. Here she comes. This is so much smoother than the previous laps. Is this going to be enough? All she needs to do is get into the top 10. And it's decided for her. Has she done it? No. 143.781, a slow lap there. This is her last chance. She only gets one more lap, and it's a big slide into center S. That might be enough for Matthias Roque. Antonella Bassani's got to control this. I think she did a slow lap to get herself ready for one more push. But nothing going right at all for Antonella Bassani, and this is the last chance she's got. Matthias Roque is losing his own head weight in sweat at the moment down in the pits. Watching Antonella Bassani, who doesn't look as committed on this one. Has she had to bail out of it? Looking at the first sector. Oh yes, it's a terrible first sector. 43.8. It's not going to be enough, and she knows it. Matthias Roque will have done enough here to get through to the shootout. Antonella Bassani is not going to do it. Well, disaster for the team. Antonella Bassani is not going through to the shootout. Whatever handling problems they've got with the car, it's not enough. Miguel Mariotti, fastest for the moment with a provisional time of 1:39.5. Antonella Bassani is knocked out of qualifying. But Matthias Roque lives to fight another day. He probably would have thought once the other 5 went through, well, that's it, it's done. And Antonella Bassani, look at her pit crew. They are crestfallen. And 38.2 in the second split. She bails out of the lap completely. But she will start from 11th position. A lot of long faces at the Mobile One crew. What have we got to do to turn this around? It's going to be a very hard 2 races at the office for this lady, Antonella Bassani. 17 years of age. Was it the overwhelming magnitude of the occasion. There's something not quite right with the setup of the car. She's just not feeling in the zone, whatever it is. But we know her to be a lot better than this because she was a race winner. She did a fantastic job at Velocita to take a thrilling victory in race 1. But here today, just all out of sorts. And she doesn't make it through to the top 10 shootout. That is a big shock. So it leaves Miguel Mariotti, Gerson Campos, Sara Gleiter, Celio Brasil, Christian Moore, Sanjo Kim, Caio Castro, Seba Marucelli, Leonardo Herman and Matthias Roque. They are the ones that get through to the shootout here in the Porsche Sprint Challenge. I have to say, there's certainly a couple of names there I would have expected to see that didn't make it through. Particularly Antonella Bassani and Marco Tullio. They will share the 6th row of the grid together, 11th and 12th. So fairly safe laps from the likes of Christian Moore and Caio Castro. They've saved their best for the shootout session, no doubt. Gerson Campos doing a very solid job there in P2 with a 1:39.746. But Miguel Mariotti's 1:39.554, not beatable. Good run from the man in the Oilema Porsche, number 21. So it's a very solid race coming up for those two as they know they're going to be up in the top 10, but in which position? That's the key factor. We're going to have 5 sport drivers and 5 sprint challenge drivers, none of which are Antonella Bassani, the championship contender and reigning champion. It just shows you reputation is enough to get you on the grid perhaps, but it's the job you do on the day that's going to see you in good stead. And I can tell you that Antonella Bassani's day just got a heck of a lot tougher. It's not impossible to win from 11th place on the grid, but it's unbelievably difficult, that is for sure. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it all progresses, how it all bails out. Well, it's definitely going to be very exciting as the contenders gear up ready for the final showdown here, the top 10 shootout in the Porsche Cup C6 Bank Sprint Challenge here at Interlagos, the 3rd weekend of 2024. The pole position on paper looks like it could be fought between Miguel Mariotti and Gerson Campos. But don't count out Christian Moore. Don't count out Caio Castro. They may have just set basic laps to get them into the top 10, but they may be holding something back. Sara Gleiter could well be in contention for the pole position as well. He was only 0.3 back from Miguel Mariotti. And again, it could just be, have I done a lap quick enough to get through? Yes, bring it in. No need to get too irate about these things. Just save all the best stuff for the shootout. 10 minutes on the course is what they'll get. But it is still a bit of a shock that we don't see Antonella Bassani in that top 10 shootout. 11th place as the car is out of sorts for whatever reason. So now we have just 10 drivers left, and that is for the shootout for the Porsche Cup C6 Bank 2024 Sprint Challenge here at Interlagos in Brazil. A fabulous opportunity to see what this circuit will really throw at the drivers in the final session. So the 8th and final qualifying stint of this particular program. And then of course later on today we are going to have the first of our races, and it really is going to be a sensational battle between these guys. They know exactly what is going to be expected of them. They're going to be in a very exciting frame of mind, that is for sure. The contenders will now head out onto the circuit. So we're going to see a truly sensational battle between our competitors then. Campos lines up at the end of the pit lane. He means business, and he's ready for a fantastic showcase. Antonella Bassani, sadly, knocked out of the shootout. A big weekend opportunity for her in Interlagos, made several times harder, knowing that her races will start from outside the top 10. Just look at the lack of balance in this car. It's very twitchy as she runs around there. The Porsche guests, watch the drivers head out as the green flag flies at the end of the pit lane. Time to go to battle. 10 minutes to decide who will be in pole position in the Sprint Challenge. So in no particular order, the drivers head out. Gerson Campos, Caio Castro, Matthias Roque, very lucky to be in this top 10, and I think that won't be lost on him. Leonardo Herman, 4th position. Celio Brasil, fastest of the sport drivers. What can he do? Can he get in amongst the Campos Castro bandwagon up front? might get a chance to go for overall pole position. Never mind sport pole. There goes Christian Moore. Heading out onto the circuit, looking for a really solid run. Seba Malucelli in the mix there as well. Out onto the circuit will go Miguel Mariotti. So some really solid performances coming. There goes Sang-Ho Kim, following Christian Moore out of the pit lane. So we're going to see some really strong battles from these drivers as they continue to push their weight around on the course. And 9 of them have headed out onto the circuit now, just waiting for the 10th one. And that is going to be Sadak Laita. So here is Gerson Campos. And there is Sadak Laita, making his way out onto the circuit. So now it's time to see in these final 10 minutes of qualifying who has got what it takes to find just that little bit extra. Track temperature 43.8 degrees Celsius, a wind speed of 6.8 kilometers at the moment. Humidity 28%. Air temperature is just pushing towards 26 degrees Celsius, and we're not even at midday yet, so it's going to be a very hot day at the races here at Interlagos. Not as hot as it could be, but certainly right up there. And so the drivers know exactly what to expect of them. They know how hard they're going to need to push if they want to go for the pole position time. So spend 2 laps getting the car up to speed. And then you're shooting for a 1:39 realistically if you want pole position. So time to see what Gerson Campos can do as he sets the initial pace. So obviously the fastest third sector at the moment is set by Gerson Campos, who's done a 24.9 just for the record. But I think they'll be able to see a little bit quicker than that for the pole position time. So Miguel Mariotti working his magic up the crest. Gerson Campos leading, Gao Castro second place, Matthias Roque, Leonardo Herman, Celio Basil, Seba Marucelli, Miguel Mariotti, Christian Moore, Sang-Ho Kim and Sadak Laita battling for the pole position here at Interlagos. And across the line, the first banker lap coming in then, as we wait to see who's going to get to the top spot. First of all, Miguel Mariotti now just starting his first banker lap. A 42.8 in Sector 1 for Gerson Campos. Compare that to a 44.2 from Gao Castro and Matthias Roque's 46.7, and you'll see that they're all getting at their own individual paces. Gao Castro is still on a warm-up lap here. This is not really representative of the sort of time he'll take. You'll only really see the fast times in the final 5 minutes of the session once everybody's warmed up. Although Celio Brasil hasn't read that script, he's just on a 41.5 in the first sector. He's decided no waiting around needed. Get on with it. Push. That's exactly what Celio Brasil is going to do. Doesn't want traffic. He wants to be very careful about not meeting anybody. Drops out of Majallo. And up towards Jinsao. 33.8 for the second sector. This looks good for Celio Brasil. Ron's on the way up to Subida dos Poches. This looks really strong. And Celio Brasil deciding not to wait around. A 1:41.9 from Gerson Campos. That is absolutely beatable. 1:39s are what you need if you want the overall pole in Sprint Challenge. Across we go. What's the time going to be for Celio Brasil? 1:40.1. That's really quick. That might be beatable in sport. I don't know if he can go quicker than that, though. That's going to be the key factor. The car twitches and vibrates as he drops down. So Celio Brasil ahead of Seba Marucelli, Gerson Campos and Gao Castro setting the initial pace. Here comes Miguel Mariotti across the start-finish line. What is his lap going to be? Is it going to be the 1:39s immediately? No, it's a 1:40.4. More time to find then. There goes Christian Moore into third on a 1:40.7. Now the cars are warmed up. Sadak Laita is going to be the last one to set a time. Matthias Roque's first was a 1:48.2. Leonardo Herman's was a 1:47.9. So every driver warming up the car at their own pace. And it's now or never. 5 minutes to go then in the session. Now we're going to get to see some fast times. Sadak Laita is getting up to speed. His first representative lap time. What is he going to do with it? Third. 1:40.647. But they can all go quicker than this. Now we're going to see some big laps. Here we go. Gerson Campos. All the way down on a 1:41.9. He's not going to stay there. He crosses the line. What does he come up with? 1:39.9. Now we're talking. This is pole position pace from Gerson Campos. But will he be beaten? That is a time that can be eclipsed by his rivals. So 1:39.9 is quick. Fastest of all in Sector 1, though, is Christian Moore. This is the man on a purple first sector. A purple sector 2 as well has come in from Miguel Mariotti, so he's looking like he could take the ultimate top spot. Mariotti gets a 140.425, just in behind Caio Castro, so there's more time to find from him. Leonardo Herman goes 4th, ahead of Miguel Mariotti now. Look at how hard Christian Moore's pushing to find the time. He goes very quickly, 33.7 now for Christian Moore. That's a fairly quick second sector. But half a second quicker than that is Miguel Mariotti in sector 2. So there's definitely time to find. But what can Christian Moore do? Can he get in amongst the top 3? Will he go quicker than Chegamos Brasil? Let's find out. Christian Moore, 3rd for the number 3. That'll do. That's a good position to be in for now. But Gerson Campos is responding. Fastest of all in sector 1. That's just been beaten by Matthias Roque, of all people. The man who nearly got knocked out of qualifying has just gone fastest of all in sector 1. A 41.44. So there's potential in this car yet. I can tell you, Gerson Campos has just done a 33.5 in the second split. There's still a chance for him to go top spot. Up in a second now has come Sadek Leiter. 139.65. Gerson Campos is down to third position. Christian Moore down to 4th. What can Campos do to respond as he comes across the start-finish line? Second, Gerson Campos, 139.474. Just wants to find a bit more from the car. But we need to keep an eye on Matthias Roque, incredibly, because he was the fastest of all in the first sector. Mariotti, by the way, has just gone quicker than that. So Miguel Mariotti, 41.3 for the first sector. That's the fastest first sector of the session. And Miguel Mariotti is already in the top spot, having done a 139.324. That looks like it could be even stronger than Gerson Campos. Leonardo Herman goes 3rd, 139.6. So you can see a lot of drivers have saved their best till this top 10 shootout. And for me, there's still a little bit more time to find from these 10 cars. But have they got the time? Have they got the patience? Have they got the discipline around this circuit to combine everything? Tactics, discipline, and strategy on tyre life. Is this going to be a faster lap? It's not fast enough for Miguel Mariotti to improve. Done a 139.476. And pushing deep, that is Leonardo Herman on the curbs, trying to make an improvement. He is the fastest of the sport drivers at the moment, 3rd place on a 139.62. Let's see a replay of Leonardo. Oh, that's a spin from Chegamos Brasil. Now he is going to hit something, is he? Oh, again, he avoids it. Chegamos Brasil down in 8th position, having previously been the fastest Sprint Challenge sport driver. But now surely that will have ruined his tyres. Surely his chance to go for the top spot in sport has just been washed away. So there is the 23 of Leonardo Herman. Trying to find that little bit of extra pace. Fastest of all in sector 1 is Miguel Mariotti on a 41.313. Nobody's really getting to that same sort of pace that we saw before. Personal best in sector 2 though for Caio Castro. He's done a 33.855. So Castro may be about to move up from 9th position. Currently 0.8 of a second back. He does. He goes into 7th place. So he outpaces Seba Malicelli. Here comes the number 23 of Leonardo Herman. What has he been able to put together? He has a best of 139.6. Does he improve? No. 45 seconds left on the clock. So if you start the lap before the time runs down to 0, you can finish that qualifying lap and it will count. If you cross the line after the time runs down, that's it. Sadek Leiter's gone very slowly at one point of the course. So has Sadek Leiter gone off the road somewhere? Yes, I think he has. He's got a problem. So Sadek Leiter's pulling off. Here comes Christian Moore. He's on a quick lap. Let's see what he can produce. Is this going to be better than 6th position for Christian Moore? No, not quite. He misses out by 0.04 of a second. Talk about consistency and pace. Here's Caio Castro. Now, what happened to Sadek Leiter? Because he is off the pace now. 3, 2, 1. Time's up. So it's now finish this lap that you're on. And it looks as though it's going to be pole position for Miguel Mariotti in a day when his close championship rival Antonella Bassani didn't even make the shootout. Caio Castro wants to get out of 7th place though. See if they can make a little bit more progress. Maybe find some pace on Christian Moore or Sadek Leiter. Leonardo Herman's done a fantastic job there in 3rd place in sport. Through they come, and this is the last chance saloon really for Caio Castro. He's on a quick lap though. But is it going to be quick enough to move him out of 7th position? Currently just a whisker behind Christian Moore. Find a couple of hundredths of a second there and you might find something. The checkered flag comes down for Caio Castro and he has not improved the time. Here's Chegamos Brasil, last chance, currently in 9th position, having had that spin at turn 1. Sadok Leiter has concluded in 4th place. The celebrations begin for Miguel Mariotti's crew. I think they figured out nobody's really going to get him. Chegamos Brasil's going to do his best. He bails out of it. So there you go. Miguel Mariotti, pole position in the Porsche Cup C6 Bank Sprint Challenge at Interlagos. Great work for Miguel Mariotti. That really helps their championship course. After a solid run last time out at Velocità, now Miguel Mariotti claims the pole position. And on a day when his chief rival, Antonello Bassani, did not even make the top 10 shootout, this is big. And this is really strong in terms of the championship ramifications as well. So Miguel Mariotti can be very happy about this indeed. So what a sensational performance and a great session for Miguel Mariotti. Some very competitive performances then across the 2 qualifying sessions, and that sets us up for some amazing races to come. Really excited to see how this is all going to play out. We've had some fantastic runs then across the qualifying sessions, and now we know the identities of the pole position across both of our category classes. And we have got so many fantastic races, battles within battles to come in the 2 races. The first of those coming up this afternoon in both categories, and then of course the second one tomorrow. But Miguel Mariotti emerges triumphant in challenge. He takes the pole here at Interlagos. Championship battle ignited. And Miguel Mariotti, that's a big hammer blow to Antonello Bassani's title hopes. And Miguel Mariotti takes full advantage. If you're caught napping, then the people who are awake are going to take full advantage. And Miguel Mariotti has done the business when it mattered most. Excellent work from Miguel Mariotti. He can be very happy about that. If you want to hear the full interviews from post-qualifying, you can follow everything on the Porsche Cup Brasil Instagram channels. It'll be in fluent Portuguese, of course, but I'm sure that those of you who are big fans of this championship will be fairly proficient in Portuguese anyway. But a fabulous run from Miguel Mariotti. He goes to the pole position in Sprint Challenge Brazil. We've got some great racing lined up for you over the course of the next few hours. We're going to take a pause in proceedings, and in about 4 hours' time, we will come back to the racetrack here at Interlagos, ready for our opening race of the weekend in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil and the Porsche Sprint Challenge Brazil. Great racing on the way, and we can't wait for it. From Jake Sanson and the whole crew here at Interlagos, it's a good start, but we don't need good, we need spectacular. Join us in a few hours when we shall deliver.
Beleza? Então chegamos aí ao final do classificatório também da categoria Challenge. Pessoal, é o seguinte, ó, precisamos de uma ajuda aqui. Tem muita gente aqui, até desci da torre, só da segurança para você me ajudar aqui. Tem muita gente aqui na frente dos boxes. Atenção, pessoal da categoria Truck. Atenção, convidados da categoria Truck. Somente pilotos ao lado dos carros. Cinegrafistas, amigos, atrás, lá nos boxes. Por gentileza para nós. Nos ajudem agora, que a direção de prova pediu até para descer no Rio Agiliza lá, porque eu preciso da ajuda de vocês. Todos lá nos boxes, por gentileza, só mecânicos e pilotos ao lado dos carros. Durante qualquer atividade de pista, os convidados têm que ficar dentro dos boxes. Vocês estão vendo nos boxes ali, ó, tem essa calha nos boxes, onde começa a pintura cinza. Vocês têm que ficar atrás da calha, por gentileza, para nós. Vamos vir. Durante a atividade de pista, somente mecânicos na frente dos boxes. Às vezes vocês querem até ajudar seu amigo, seu piloto, mas essa ajuda pode ter uma penalização do piloto.